Okay, so I am back for am I no, I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm doing this. I need to check my microphone. It's not fucking ear piercing and it's not fucking killing. It died again. Like, I don't know why it keeps on doing that. Um Content to great. It's content to great. We need to time gate it. So I like it's like like basically like I lost some footage. I kind of like want to watch some more videos today, so I'll actually do that. This will actually like also boost up my fucking like channel that like well actually technically all my channels that cannot work. So I'll just like flood the algorithm like while I can before I die, and after that, I will I will I will check out. I don't even know. I don't even know. What I know is that like I wanted to let me like let me just find like something chill, something chill. Um. Mm, mm, mm. Uh, uh, What's a cunning weapon, bro? Like some people do 3 hours video. I will do these, but you know, like for gentle few kicks. Uh, like every old god explain in 20 minutes. You know what? Why not? Why not? Okay, so let's start with actually something quite depressing. Um, so where is it? Tab? No, it's not a tab. New window. Here you go. Here you go. So let's be depressed together. Um, I think that like which one more? I guess I guess this one. I guess this one. I'll go for this one. Yeah. So let me just go on my where is it? The OBS. Here it is. And I'll check like last time. Where is it? Browser. Yep, here it is. And here it is. Okay. So, all anime portrays collective anxiety. So I was like going for something kind of like darker, like I don't know, more interesting. Like everything is interesting, like about like art in general. So I don't know, but yeah, let's check this out. Dara talks games. I think I've watched like a lot of stuff from this guy. So yeah, let's check this out. Let me just check out my fucking like stream once again because fuck you Twitch. Like it's not fuck you Twitch, it's my mic. Okay, it's my microphone. Okay, let's do this. Okay, so how anime portrays collective anxiety. You know what I don't have? Not anxiety. So this is actually fascinating to me to listen to.
Year is 1996. A young high schooler we'll call Darius is practicing American football. He goes to tackle another player, their helmets collide, sweat flies, and things go white for a moment. Darius is shaken up, disoriented, but the sensation passes as quickly as it comes. I'm fine, he tells himself, and returns to practice. As he is driving home from the field that evening, he begins to notice that he cannot see in his left eye. He treacherously veers, panics, stops, and calls his father. The next day at the doctor, he is assured his vision will return in 2 to 3 days. It does not. Doctors run tests, MRIs find nothing. His primary care physician can find nothing wrong, and according to his ophthalmologist, it was impossible for Darius not to see in the bad eye. Another round of tests at another eye specialist out of town finds nothing abnormal. Even this second opinion yields no answers, and yet Darius has made no improvements. This young man is now half blind, and doctors cannot ascertain why. Okay, fair warning. Today I am going to do something on this channel that I never do, which is talk about psychology that is based not so much in replicated empirical research, but in the ideas of a few psychologists in the early 20th century.
So this is like when it comes to psychology, I studied psychology quite a lot. Like this is valid when it comes to psychology. Psychology is a lot like philosophy because a lot of basically a lot of people see psychology these days as this inaccessible. Like psychiatry is something else, but like psychology as this inaccessible uh realm of thinking where it actually is closer to philosophy, or actually like just view it as shamanism. Just it's for this the next idea is that you will actually talk about be more legitimate and actually be more empirical actually. Objective in certain ways, because there is a lot of perspective linked to psychology that is like basically more or less philosophy added with like some chemicals. So just because it's really interesting, and art has like this really like ability to actually change people for the better, for the worse. I'm actually like on this one, like I'm talking too much. Just basically like this, like some random dude trying to talk about psychology is not invalid. That's just what I wanted to say from someone that actually studied that.
Ideas that have very little, if any, current day research backing them. By talking about these ideas, I am not saying that they are true or false or even really taking a stance either way. I'll simply be presenting them because they are important for the subject matter at hand. Will it be interesting? Wildly. Will it be entertaining? I certainly hope so. Will it be something to better understand yourself or be taken as advice? Well, that's entirely up to you. Use your own judgment. We will, of course, also be talking about a few actual scientific studies as well, including the one I opened up with, and we'll swing back to that was, in fact, a true story covered in this research paper. Oh, and here are your trigger warnings, and there will be minor, no context spoilers for a few shows throughout. I'll tag them with this as they come up. But for the first time ever on Psych of Play, we'll be talking about psychology from a historical and cultural perspective. But then again,
so this is like important, and this is something that even psychology these days forget, that cultural perspective. So the culture, habits, religions, and whatever. Is as important as like the medicine progress themselves, because you can like the same psychology does not apply to the same cultures. Like it is always like different to each culture and to each individuals, which makes it really interesting and fascinating to actually study and to actually like work in. But so just to just add to the argument that like what this means, it's not because he's not a psychologist that he doesn't have the right to talk about psychology, and that his arguments or opinions are invalid just because he doesn't have a fucking paper. Yeah.
this isn't a Psych of Play, is it? have watched a lot of anime in my day. I have read a lot of manga. I have played my fair share of anime games. I am what you would call a closet weeb because I don't really talk about this much unless we are close friends and you also enjoy this little slice of media. I've never really been able to put my finger on it, but anime and manga have always done a spectacular job of doing one of two things: making me squee like a little girl when something aggressively wholesome happens, and giving me a chance to interact with something extremely heavy or uncomfortable in a way that no other medium really does. I'll give you an example. My wife and I recently finished the first season of a show called True Detective.
I will agree with that. Like that anime as a way, and the Japanese artists and nowadays actually like worldwide artists are able to portray like ideas in certain ways that are just were never seen in different other types of medias. So to me, like it's a subculture. Anime became quite a subculture of what happened in between reading like books and the invention of cinema, like but a subcategory of that, because like it allows you to portray the impossible. It allows you to portray certain character traits and um just character personalities through actually like visual coding. Visual coding. You know the red thing on the face, this or like being red, or like the like there's if you watch anime, like you know what I'm talking about, being like being fully red because you're actually like angry and stuff. Like if you get me on that, this is actually called visual coding. And so when you code this and you actually like agree on a convention of codes, this allows for like a new type of like expression of well, ideas, reflection, philosophies, as well as well, whatever the fuck you want at the end of the day. But that makes it really interesting because as well as it comes from another culture. At least it came. Now it is like slowly becoming like mainstream, which is interesting because like the core stays the core, and but we get to see what others can do with the same well coded conventions.
It's one part buddy buddy cop show, one part twisted crime mystery drama, and about 5 parts character exploration. Over the course of several years, our two main characters, detectives Cole and Hart, work together to hunt down a man who has been brutally murdering women while also dealing with their own off-the-clock anxieties. Hart's marriage and relationship with his daughters is in shambles as he turns to alcohol and women to cope with the abhorrent sights he comes across as a detective, and conversely, Cole is obsessing over his investigative work to distract himself from a past trauma. Really heinous killer. We through their endeavors
So,
directly through their trauma. The first
so about the past trauma, I just lost footage not too long ago. It actually made me lose like a lot of like basically like future whatever the fuck you call it. So about past dealing with past traumas, I just need to check real quick if everything works on the stream, if my video is actually like if there's sound and stuff. So let me just check this out real quick, like because like past trauma, yeah. Perfect. So past trauma dealt with. Let's go.
season, at least, illustrates their struggles directly through their actions and dialogue, and metaphorically through their endeavor to hunt down this mysterious, putridly heinous killer. We understand what Cole has gone through because it has manifested itself in his repeated nihilistic mutterings.
I think human consciousness is a tragic misstep in evolution. Programmed with total assurance that we are each somebody, when in fact everybody's nobody.
That sounds god fucking awful, Russ.
Let me just do something. I'll be annoying. It doesn't matter. Let me just give me.
And we understand
everybody's nobody. With total assurance that we is a tragic.
in his repeated nihilistic mutterings,
I think human consciousness is a tragic misstep in evolution. Programmed with total assurance that we are each somebody, when in fact everybody's nobody.
Well, that sounds god fucking awful, Rush.
and we understand what Hart is going through because we watch him repeatedly, strongly regret his decisions. And through the pursuit of a common enemy, we see them grow and overcome their demons, at least to some degree.
So I'll give you like the story. Basically, two detectives. The personality is quite simple. One is actually like quite intellectual, and the other is quite in the action. So one reacts to ideas, the other reacts to feelings. So the second one that is not about like fucking like go kill yourself philosophy is actually the one reacting more to feelings, and that makes for like an interesting show.
This is how a lot of stories in the Western world are written. Internal struggles are manifested through actions and dialogue. Evil is represented by another character or group, and overcoming said evil is a metaphor for the good guys overcoming the darkness they have within themselves. However, in my experience, a ton of anime is written just a little bit differently. I realize this is a gaming channel, so to ease us into this, why don't I start with an anime game? Persona. Imagine for a moment that in True Detective, both men had to face their inner demons directly, not in a physical sense through their decisions, but in a metaphysical sense by literally facing their darker selves. Imagine that the killer was not a person to arrest, but instead an aspect of a person to defeat. Imagine that the villain was not just a man serving as a metaphor, but instead a literal polymerization of Cole and Hart's anxieties and dark thoughts. This is how many manga, anime, and anime games like Persona illustrate evil. We don't just see real-world consequences of internal anxieties and fears, we see actual metaphysical manifestations of them that are to be dealt with directly.
Okay, wait a second. I felt a miracle happening. Okay, no, that was not.
In Persona, the gang doesn't deal with this teacher's sexual harassment by catching him in the act, getting evidence, and reporting him. We go meet his subconscious self and physically beat it into submission until it will listen to reason and understand the error of its ways. In a really fantastic anime called Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai, yes, that is the real name of the show, we see a handful of characters who aren't just facing anxieties in the way you or I might. We see those anxieties come to life in physical symptoms. Mai Sakurajima is slowly realizing that people in the real world can no longer see her. Not emotionally, as if she doesn't truly feel seen, but physically, she is fading from the awareness of the people around her. Even going so far as wearing this in a public library just to see if anyone will finally notice her. This is happening to her, as we find out, because she feels isolated due to her complicated relationship with her mother, work, and school life. Later in the show, her younger sister Nodoka's jealousy of Mai causes them to swap bodies until they can work through their issues. In Jujutsu Kaisen, Yuta Okatsu is haunted by the death of his childhood friend Rika, which again doesn't result in a nihilistic worldview and obsession with the cold case. It manifests in a wildly powerful and jealous cursed spirit that represents the trauma of losing his first love. And we see this everywhere in anime and manga. Hitagi Senjigahara's weightlessness in Bakemonogatari as a symptom of repressed trauma that would otherwise weigh her down. If you've seen Naruto, you'll know that the Sharingan Eye manifests when a Uchiha reaches a certain level of hate and only grows more powerful as that hatred intensifies. And I can't tell you how many times in shows like Gurren Lagann, it seemed like they made these physical giant robots and drills grow from sheer ambition alone. Spiral power, cursed energy, ki. Japanese media seems to have a fascination with physical or metaphysical manifestations of emotions. We don't just see emotion embody motivations and a dialogue, we often see it embody the real world itself as an actual hurdle to be overcome, a real tangible location, an enemy, a weapon, an appearance, a symptom. It's almost like a surreal, fantastical version of what our friend Darius is going through. You see, what I didn't tell you is that Darius is suffering not just from blindness, but also an immense amount of pressure from his father. Our boy is a 6'5", 290-pound dog, and he's still only in high school. His coaches, his community, and especially his father are all expecting great things out of him. Being in his shoes means going to a big Division I college on scholarship and could mean stardom one day in the NFL. And because of this pressure, Darius is experiencing an uncharted level of stress that is manifesting in a wildly unconventional way: blindness. This is an extremely rare condition called conversion disorder, when an anxiety, an emotional trauma, a fear manifests symptoms that cannot otherwise be explained medically. And it's not just blindness. Another study highlights a young boy that is losing mobility in his arm and experiences constant pain throughout as a response to his father's unemployment and his mother's scare with cancer.
Yes, and this is also like why I technically like dropped and went on my own on studying experimental psychological studies, because people do not fucking take into account feelings when talking about psychology. You wouldn't believe how much people fucking because in feelings and actual medical health. So basically, like, it is proven by doctors that you will fall ill more often if you're depressed. This is factual, right? But basically, within this industry, people do not fucking take this into account, because since this is factual, no matter what the scale or the range or the specter of this of the illness or the patient, or like the case study you're studying, this will always be true. And because of that, like, what he says is actually like what I was saying about legitimate psychology. Well, basically, conventional psychological basically studies not fucking taking into account like feelings, and also physical health, and just like the intertwinement of both, meaning like the connection between both, where it's well, I don't know, like you're depressed, you don't get out of bed, you get ill, you start eating worse and worse, and basically after that, what happens? Well, you fall ill more, and then what happens? Vicious circle, you actually get more depressed, and then you get actual like fucking bad illnesses, because there's it just goes two turns like this, and you can get actually let's say cancer, or let's say mm, how is it called, let's say incurable diseases, just because well, basically you did the full circle twice of you feel bad, you do not take care of yourself, because of that you fell ill, or your life your quality of life lowered, and because of that you actually went into a a deeper state of depression, and this deeper state of depression led you to this time to something actually like an illness that is actually recognized. And this is why a lot of specialists sounds like idiots to a lot of to a lot of the youth, because well, basically they don't take into account this, and to another degree, they do not take into account basically they really disconnect, and this really fucking thing that psychology is the mind is an organ separated from other organs. No, this is traditional medicine. Organs are disconnected from other organs, not the mind, not the spirit, not the soul, not whatever the fuck you call it, right? And yeah, so this is for just my critique of because I've read so many fucking things, and it's always the same fucking arguments, and it's just and basically the stupid looking dude that tells you, hey, maybe fucking go outside and fucking do something, Well, basically, he's right most of the cases because, well, basically, if you try to fucking like better your life, there's a good to fair chance that like your fucking state of mind will improve, and the vicious circle becomes like a virtuous circle. So the opposite, well, like you actually do something, improve your quality of life, and basically your depression lowers up, and then it actually like makes you improve your quality of life once again, so a second time, and this time actually you fucking get out of your fucking illness. Voila. So this is kind of like how it happens. So basically, the dude that actually fucking sounds stupid telling you, and maybe like fucking find a hobby or something, is actually a better psychologist than most of the fucking like psychologists that fucking like do the fucking like fucking insane studies that tell you like words that you do not understand. Trust me on that one. I studied that way too much, and I'm way too passionate with this to fucking like tell you lies about this. Well, it's to each their own interpretation, and this is like the beauty of psychology. It's so similar to philosophy that to each their own interpretation. We're all fucked up in a way, so yeah.
There was another case of a woman dealing with speech impairment and tremors in response to memories of sexual abuse. If you remember the girls of Leroy in the old Lavender Town video we did, same business. Physical symptoms for mental wounds. Many would call it faking, but these symptoms are experienced as very real to those afflicted.
Not only very real, fucking like verifiable through actual traditional medical tools.
You see, conversion disorder is one of the body's ways of intervening when a stressor becomes far too much. Darius felt like he couldn't quit football because of his dad, but after the psychiatrist in this study stepped in and made it clear to Darius's father that this might be the issue, Darius and his father talked it out. It was made clear that he could drop football if he really wanted to, and that
But it just means just one thing that I like to add. It doesn't mean like that the chemicals that they prescribe and their effects are actually invalid. Like this is valid. It's just that the discussion and basically the discussion that most people have with their specialist is actually the wrong one. But the classical medicine behind it, right? So the pills, right? So the pills and everything around it is legitimate. It's legit, right? So just so you don't fucking think that like I'm anti fucking anti-vax, anti-medicine or whatever. Fuck. No, the medicine work. It's just like the fucking like the fucking like perspective of the discussion that people have usually with their specialist that is false. But you can like to be honest, like you can still find it within like actually passionate psychologists. I'm not a psychologist. I'm just like someone who studied it. But basically, you can find what I'm talking about within like good psychologists, the ones that actually are passionate about healing, helping, and you can just feel that like they're here, you know?
that his father would love him all the same. Once they had this talk, the eyesight returned within a few days. Senjogahara's weightlessness can be interpreted as a safety mechanism to keep her from carrying the heavy burden of her home life falling apart after her mother's abuse. It's only after she accepts the burden as her own that her weight returns and she can begin to move forward. Relations between Mai and Nadoko were strained by a mutual jealousy. Those feelings took form in a body swap to give each other a chance to literally walk in each other's shoes. It's only by understanding and accepting each other and themselves that they can return to normal. And I think this is one of the many things that fascinates me about anime, the surreal nature with which internal struggles are illustrated. It's artfully placed in the open as a player rather than just a motivator.
And technically, like to a certain point, we actually are all living in anime. If you just take the time to take the time to think outside the box and just consider what dreaming does to your psychology. Because like the struggles that he talks about is basically like are not like lived within your conscious life, but are lived within your subconscious life and conscious life within dreaming. So you get your anime fucking like a moment within your dreams. This is why you actually like, well, again, it connects to psychology where like well, people with trauma will say you have nightmares. So this is exactly what he describes, and this is actually a really good point that he makes about anime and connecting like, and the way I actually like find it fascinating how they portray certain type of storytelling, certain type of stories, just because actually it connects to a lot of things. Anyway, I'll stop talking. I'll listen to the smart guy instead of annoying you.
Now, at this part of the script, usually I am asking, why? Why do people play games the way they do? Why does this game make people feel this way? And so here, I was asking, why so much conversion disorder? Was there some mass psychogenic event in Japan at some point? Where is this coming from? What is the connection between this illness and this trope? And the answers I found were, well, they weren't that simple, because this trope isn't that simple. I'd like to make a proclamation. I really like Chainsaw Man. It's an absolute
I really like Makima, best girl, and I really like, and I kind of like Chainsaw Man.
roller coaster of a manga. The anime is going to be a banger. I like Makima. I like Power more. I like Denji best. I feel sorry for Kabini, and sometimes I wish I could teleport her to that planet in Teen Titans where the little aliens give you massages and feed you grapes. And one thing that I find interesting about Chainsaw Man is that the characters known as devils in it all derive their power from public perception. The more the general public fears said devil, the more ferocious it becomes. For example, sharks are scary, right? I think most people would agree. Here is the shark devil. He's pretty strong. Bats? Yep, same thing. Here is your bat devil. Anyone afraid of chickens?
Yes, it's safe here.
Yeah, not many. So here is your chicken devil. Guns? Yes. Especially nowadays, especially after certain events have taken place. And Chainsaw Man does not stray away from this. The public's collective anxieties manifest here much in the same way that they do on an individual basis in our little slice of life anime. And as I was reading Chainsaw Man back in August of last year, it really resonated with me, but it also occurred to me that I think I've seen this before. Jujutsu Kaisen, another show that I really quite like, actually quantifies and makes a currency out of negative human emotion. Cursed energy. All humans have it, and as it leaks out in times of strife, if enough is built up, a cursed spirit is born. Populated locations like hospitals, parks, and schools are typically breeding grounds for these baddies because of all the dark emotions associated with them. And in certain cases, like our boy Yuta from earlier, it only takes one heavy trauma to create an extremely powerful curse. And historically, I think a lot of this general public anxiety feeding into the power of the bad guys trope comes from the old Shintoism belief in yokai, mischievous spirits that inhabit the world around us.
Oh, I love. So I was actually like rethinking about yokais. So I didn't knew the name, but yokais actually are such a beautiful belief within Japanese culture. That spirits of nature are just existing, and basically it's complicated. It's just like so pure and beautiful. I don't know. Just check it out if you want your dosage. Like if you want to actually, because it talks about anxiety and talks about those things you think yokais and try to fucking find like an anime that talks about them, because like this is like pure happiness and pure comfort if you're living in dark spots, you know?
In the show Natsume's Book of Friends, a yokai's power is determined by the number of people that believe in them, which I think is an interesting parallel to this idea, because some sources say that one origin of yokai is that they were superstitious explanations of misfortune in Japan. Take for instance the Kappa yokai. They spend time in lakes and marshes, love to
Kappa emote, kappa emote, kappa kappa.
wrestle with children, and will, occasionally drag a child
I wish I had more followers just so someone could fucking put a kappa emote.
downstream with them.
Wait, maybe I can put it myself. There's no kappa. Such.
They're superstitions and folktales that only gain steam the more credence they are given. They are only as real as the public makes them. The more these things are talked about, the more they take form in the collective unconscious.
So this noise is about me, like, just searching for the kappa emote again. Let me find it. Like, if you didn't knew, like, actually, if you didn't knew kappa, where is it? Kappa comes from Japanese belief, and so wait, kappa. Oh no, it's not the same. Actually, but like, basically the term, maybe? I don't fucking know. Maybe I was wrong. Kill me. Sue me.
And this is where things get unsettling. I'm just kidding. We aren't talking about Ava. Carl Jung was a Swiss psychiatrist. He studied under Freud, take that for what it's worth, until he eventually went his separate ways from Freud because he disagreed with a lot of Freud's ideas, take that for what it's worth. Mainly, he thought that Freud's conceptualization of the unconscious was too limited and overly negative. He also disagreed that sexuality was a key motivating behavioral force, meaning Jung clearly never watched interspecies reviewers. He laid the foundation for the study of introversion and extroversion, and there is a crowd of psychiatrists still working today that consider themselves Jungian in their practice. Like I said at the beginning, I'm not here to take sides, use your own judgment, but most of
Yeah, and this is like kind of the part that like confirms what I was talking about where like even if they don't admit it, it just confirmed what I was talking about. And like psychology is really like similar to philosophy. Just like people consider themselves Sartrean or nihilists or just like fucking like what the fuck was the Greek fucking philosophers like Plato and stuff. Like people consider themselves like this. Well, it's the same. So you get the confirmation from the guy, and I get the happy molecule of I didn't lie about like telling you stuff.
of his ideas, barring intro and extroversion, have very little backing from current day empirical research. One such idea is his concept of the collective unconscious, that lying in the depths of each and every one of our psyches is a genetically passed set of ideas that we share with every other human on the planet. Have you ever watched a movie and felt like you could place each character into a stereotypical category? The shady guy with ulterior motives, the wise, mother-like figure, the innocently naive hero who is inevitably betrayed or taken advantage of. According to Jung, these are archetypes that we all inherently understand from birth, and we recognize these traits in ourselves and each other because we come with a built-in blueprint of each. There are 4 main archetypes that you may recognize, 12 sub-archetypes, and Jung admittedly proposed that deeper than that, there may be no limit to the number that exist. You might be afraid of the dark or clowns because they are archetypes passed down through previous generations. In a nutshell,
I'm afraid of my ex. Like, just want to tell it to the world.
your unconscious mind is the collective culmination of ancient wisdom that came before it. And you'd better believe that this has influenced a ton of media. You could argue that the objects of power and control gain said power because they are archetypes developed from being symbolic of something in the public eye for years. A ringing telephone, a rubber duck, a horse from a merry-go-round, ordinary
My ex calling me.
things that come alive due to repeated perception and associations. Katsura Hashino, the director of the Persona series, said in an interview with Killscreen that Persona addresses problems people hold deep in their hearts, and that his games are meditations on the true self, which you may have noticed from a moment ago, the persona is one of the 4 main archetypes proposed by Jung. To Young, the persona represents all of the different social masks that we wear in everyday life. It's there to help us behave in a way that society expects, to follow social norms, and to mask all of the primitive urges, impulses, and emotions that aren't socially acceptable. Persona the games seem to directly comment on this by having characters, again, often face their own shadows and the shadows of others that, much like Young's archetype of the shadow, are completely instinctual. The shadow is the unfiltered desire in the unconscious that is composed of repressed ideas, weaknesses, and instincts. The Persona series is actually extremely Jungian, and one of the most interesting places in the game for the purposes of this video is Mementos in Persona 5, which sort of illustrates the pop culture version of Jung's collective unconscious. It is literally a living, breathing, connected network of the general public's cognition. When it rains, moods drop, so monsters become stronger. When it's flu season, enemies often start the battle with despair. If it's a heat wave, they might start the battle burned. And this illustration of the collective unconscious, while a bit
So there is a term that I really like called the where is it? The standalone complex. So the standalone complex actually talks about uh um it talks about like collective psychology that actually goes into some poetry or just I'd say history. A standalone complex describes a phenomenon where unrelated spontaneous events converge to form a seemingly orchestrated event or conspiracy. It's about how individual actions, driven by similar motivations or information, lead to an emergent phenomenon that appears coordinated, but it isn't. So basically, like he talks about like mass psychology and stuff like that. I just wanted to share you about like one mass psychology occurrence or like definition that I really like and happening that I really like.
faithful to the source material, I think also really embodies the collectivist nature of the general public in Japan compared to the individualistic nature of the West. And you can obviously see the parallels to this in Chainsaw Man and Jujutsu Kaisen. The public's collective fears are a huge player in both series. Hell, even in a manga called Dandadan, the collective unconscious is mentioned by name when explaining why these
I need to watch Dan.
guys attacked the game. By the way, you need to be reading Dandadan. It is
Dude, actually, I just check this out. Like this is the sign of God, Dan. Dan. Here you go. I will check this out. And what did I want to show? Watch me fucking like not finish the video and start like watching Dan on stream and get banned. Okay.
genuinely fantastic. Mark my words, this will get an anime adaptation one day and take the world by storm.
It actually did. The dude was when was it? 2 years ago. Dan actually yeah. 2 years ago the dude was actually right.
If you thought
Good job
Marin
on
and
you.
Lady Dimitrescu were bad, just wait until the internet catches wind of Ayase's grandma. Anyways, we've well established that the collective unconscious, regardless of how accurately it is portrayed, is a huge influence on a lot of Japanese media. But at this point, during my research of this video, I still couldn't find a connection. Why was Jungian psychology so big in Japan? Well, honestly, it kind of wasn't. At least not any bigger than it was anywhere else in the world, so What's going on? What am I missing? Why was Jung such a big influence on the East?
What the what?
I had it backwards. It wasn't Jung that had an influence on the East, it was the East that had an influence on Jung. As fate would have it, a few years after Jung broke up with Freud, his interests turned east and he actually drew a ton of inspiration from Eastern culture and religion. According to this 2019 article from the Pacifica Graduate Institute,
Wow, this is so if you're actually like not into that stuff, it doesn't like what you just said is not really like it's not like the fucking anime finale that you wanted to fucking hear, but this is actually fucking powerful what you just said. What a fucking dude. So it wasn't fucking Jung that was like inspiring East. It was inspired by the East. The fuck? Well, here you go. Welcome to the fucking world of fucking like people that have no friends.
Jung's investigation of Eastern culture and religion supplied him with an abundance of cross-cultural materials to compare with his hypotheses of archetypes, the collective unconscious, and other manifestations of psychic reality. In other words, it's entirely possible that a lot of aspects of Jung's collective unconscious were influenced by the collectivist culture of the East as well as religions like Buddhism. What we've been talking about this entire time may not just be a Jungian influence, but also a Buddhist one. When Senju is being questioned before she faces the source of her weightlessness, she is asked who her favorite novelist is, and she reports Yumino Kyusaku, who was in fact an author and Buddhist monk in the early 20th century, best known for his surrealistic narratives not unlike the ones we've talked about today. One arc in Jujutsu Kaisen's first season features cursed objects known as the Cursed Womb Death Paintings. These are 9 special grade objects created with mixed genetic material of both a cursed spirit and a human. These give rise to new villains in one of the most badass fight scenes I've laid my eyes upon in a long time, but the name Death Paintings is actually a reference to the Buddhist art of Kusozu, a series of 9 paintings portraying the 9 stages a decaying corpse goes through before it eventually turns to dust. They are, as you can imagine, repulsive, and the point was apparently to be a resource for monks. If a monk felt he was being tempted by bodily desires, he could view the art and remember the temporary nature of the flesh. Really cheery stuff. And in an interview between Gege
The fucking monks went hardcore to fucking like stay pure and not have wives. So basically, I'll translate to you what the fuck you just said. So the monks, they were like, so within like Buddhist religions and religion, a lot of Zen religion, people stay actually like faithful to their virginity and faithful to their celibacy, to vows, right? And basically, the dudes, they're so fucking alpha. They went from, oh yeah, so to resist the girls, huh? Let's fucking like do studies about decaying corpses and watch decaying corpses if we are tempted. That will fucking show us. That will keep us in line to fucking find enlightenment. There were like probably like other steps, but like I respect the fucking grind.
Akutami, the creator of Jujutsu Kaisen, and Tite Kubo, the creator of Bleach, these death paintings came up. Kubo noticed them and pointed out that he too likes to incorporate Buddhism in his writing. These rings that appear when Tosen uses his Bankai actually have the names of the 9 stages of death paintings written on them. Both admitted to finding actually have the names of
Tosen. Wow. Actual beautiful reference in Bleach, that Tosen.
the 9 stages of death paintings written on them. Both admitted to finding inspiration in Buddhism and even agreed that it is essentially Japanese mythology, which I think is really the root of this whole collective unconscious idea.
Never heard about Bleach? If you never heard, check it out. It's a small element, like kinda nice.
Yeah, we've been trying to get at this entire time. There is a concept in Buddhism known as non-self. To wildly oversimplify it, by extinguishing one's selfish desires and replacing them with an undying loving kindness, you can find true happiness. That by practicing compassion instead of pride, you can empty yourself out, achieve the non-self state, and understand the fundamental meaning of being alive. And this non-self concept, as well as other Buddhist ideas, were a large influence in the work of one Japanese psychologist named Hayao Kawai, who actually introduced Jungian ideas to Japan in 1955. Jung and Kawai both agreed that the major difference.
Yeah, in 1955, it was like really like a random year. Like just like nothing like happened in 1955. I just need to point it out
Between the Western and
to fucking like mention 1955 in Japan. Kind of like average year.
Eastern conceptualizations of the self was where the self lies within our own consciousness. What I mean is that the Western self is very contained in the conscious mind. However, presumably because of the collectivist nature of the East as well as Buddhist influence, the Eastern self is not contained here. It leaks into the unconscious. According to Kawai, the self in Westerners is put in the center of consciousness, meaning that the self is thought of as strong, central, and independent. The Eastern self, however, lives in the unconsciousness, which means that the self is rather fluid. Jung echoed this. In 1954, he wrote, "To the West, consciousness is inconceivable without an ego. If there is no ego, there is nobody to be conscious of anything. The ego is therefore indispensable to the conscious process. The Eastern mind, however, has no difficulty conceiving of a consciousness without an ego. Consciousness is deemed capable of transcending its ego condition. Indeed, in its higher forms, the ego disappears altogether." Wait, leaks, fluid, empty, disappear? It all... Why does it always come back to Ava? Obviously, a lot could be said of Evangelion in this context, right? Especially that scene. Oh, right, spoilers for the 20-year-old show.
I see fucking like I watched this so long ago. He talks about Evangelion, and I'm like, I don't know what the fuck, except like solipsism. I just remember the fucking like, oh, everyone is you scene.
Show everyone's obsessed with. You can see threads of Kawai's illustration of the Eastern model of consciousness here. You can interpret the orange liquid everyone gushes into as unconsciousness. You could interpret the AT fields, which by the way stand for absolute terror fields, I just learned, as the
So after like I actually verified though, I remember like checking out the orange food Fanta.
boundaries of the ego, keeping the self separate from the unconscious and presumably the unconscious of others. Once it goes away, we all become one large nucleus of unconscious goop. But ultimately, Anno takes these Jungian Buddhist concepts, much like every other show we've talked about today, and brings a literal interpretation to them. To achieve the true meaning of life, the Human Instrumentality Project, not only does the idea of a self need to be abandoned to achieve happiness, but the physical self must be relinquished as well. Obviously, this particular ending of Ava is, well, a feverish nightmare, and we could spend hours picking apart what it all means and why I'm completely missing the point, but it's just another example that I think would be the most complete and the most striking of everything we've talked about today. You know, writing this script started with me trying to understand the origin of a trope I've seen in anime. Naturally, this being the show that it is, I went to psychology. I wanted answers, and I still can't decide if I really found them, but I think I did find something else along the way.
And this is what's important. Like psychology is like not only about the results, but also like about the discussion and the friends we made along the way. Kinda, you know, like when it comes to the philosophical ideas we made along the way, and the philosophical like personal like conclusions that we made along the way, because like it never fucking ends. Like you think like there is no like last boss of fucking like psychology or feeling better. It's a work of every day, you know.
I think I understand why anime moves me the way that it
a daily job.
does. I am an American for what it's worth, and whether or not me living here my entire life has caused this or not, I am a very prideful person. I'm competitive. I'm insecure. I like to show off. I think a lot of myself, and admittedly, I'm not as empathetic or as good to other people as I wish I was. I am very individualistic. My AT field is strong as hell, dog, and I guess anime takes these subtleties of a lot of American media and makes them not so subtle. That burning feeling I get when I see injustice in the world, that's not just a feeling in anime, that's a transformation. Those sorrows I have about the people I've lost in my life, that's more than just a feeling in my gut. In anime, it's something tangible, something I can perceive and at least to some degree understand because it's taken a physical form.
And it allows for more poetry when it comes to your own like representation of self and your own feelings. And this is like what everyone loves music. Everyone listens to music. Music is poetry. Movies are poetry. Like video games are poetry. And I think that like when it comes to like because like obviously you try to identify yourself in anime. Well, basically, like it allows for more poetry compared to Western type of representation. But I will actually go along the way, go further than that, and tell you that like Japanese theater also allows this. So it's not only anime that allows this like more poetic like perspective of self and perspective of like the world, but also like theater, like movies actually don't fucking.
And you know, the part that really brings me a lot of solace is that these
Video games kind of like depends on the video game. This is not like as restricted and as unique to Japan.
happenings in anime are all relational. We all contribute to mementos. We all have anxieties that lend themselves to a common foe. Our relationships with others are often what brings out the mental or very physical strength to carry on. The body swap in Bunny Girl Senpai happened because of a connection between sisters. All of Shinji's struggles in Eva manifested because of his struggles to get close to others. Darius's blindness stemmed from a desperate need to please the father that he loved and admired so deeply. It's all relational. We're all connected in one way or another, for better or for worse. Through the good and the bad, we're not alone. We're all in this together, and the feeling that I share both my anxieties and my hopes and dreams with the rest of the world is a sensation that I think only anime has ever really given me. Oh, that was a damn fun video to write. Look, I'll be honest, I have really needed something to shake things up because I have felt creatively in a rut. The Dark Souls video I made earlier this year has felt like my only quality work all year, honestly, so I think I needed this. And hey, maybe it sucks, maybe no one likes this, but man, I had a good time. Thanks for letting me get a little
It doesn't. It's really fun.
bit weird on this one. I promise the tight empirical research will be back next time. Also, real quick, please know that Buddhism is one of the many rabbit holes I fell down researching this, and I almost certainly oversimplified something in this video. If you are Buddhist or know a lot about Buddhism, I'm sure you know how the comment section works, and I would love to hear you clarify what I was trying to get at here down below. This has been a huge learning experience for me, and I don't want it to stop at writing this script. I'd also like to take a moment to say thank you, truly thank you to my Patreon supporters for making this video possible. On Patreon, we have these goals we try to hit, right? Once a certain amount of pledges are hit, to celebrate, I make a highly requested video. A psych of anime was the first big milestone we hit, which is how we are here now, and once we hit this goal, a psych of play on dating sims will be in the works. You can support the show for only $1 a month. Let's make this happen. If you'd like to be a part of this, follow the link in the description or in my pinned comment down below. Once again, a colossal thank you to my Patreon supporters, especially this month's featured patrons, Meadow, Ronald Gaida, Joe McGowan.
Actually, like, this will be my limit. But like, yeah, if you actually like have like money to spare, like support this guy as well. He talks the truth. He's actually like fucking legit and really adorable, to be honest. So yeah, I don't have enough. I don't have like the fucking resources because I'm busy trying to fucking make something happen here. Uh, but yeah, and fucking like a 2D animated like waifus are actually fucking expensive, like gacha games and stuff. So it won't be me, but know that like I support you for myself. Anyway, okay, so all anime portrays collective anxiety. This was an interesting take, and actually like he talks about so many things that I actually kind of lost myself. But I think that this is kind of like where it was going for, where like I actually like don't even know what the fuck where to start. So I won't actually like go to a conclusion. The conclusion is, if you actually want more of anime, that like something that makes you feel like anime, take your fucking high heels, like fucking ego obsessed mindset out, right? And try out fucking Japanese theater, Japanese anime theater as well. Like this is something that is really like emotional, really like light, and really like accessible even to foreigners, and that you will love if you actually like take the time to fucking like tell yourself that like you're not you're if you actually take the time to fucking tell yourself that you're not too good to, or to that you're not too good to watch fucking theater, right? Especially anime theater, right? Once you fucking like get out, like get down from your fucking like cloud, you know, like maybe you'll discover something really great. That's how I mean. A lot of people fucking like are maybe I am assuming. Anyway, yeah, so this was it. Let me check my fucking stream. Once again, I need to fucking like this fucking nonsense. It never ends, to be honest. Like once fucked because I didn't checked okay, so everything is working out. I didn't lost footage, and we can keep on going. So yeah. Um, Let me just get to whatever the fuck I was like wanting to watch after that.
The year is
All right. Let's talk about like some more light anime, right? Let's talk about like let's watch about let's because like so he talks about like basically Chainsaw Man and Evangelion. Yeah, let's fucking get to to something like more light. So let's watch something from Kid Gog. Actually, I fucking love this man. This man is my life when it comes to like anime recommendation. So when an anime leaves you speechless. Last time it happened, it was for me. It was Yaboy Kume. Yaboy Kume. Yaboy Kume. Yeah, Yaboy Kume really left me speechless on this one. There was like others, but like this is the one that I think about like the more powerfully.
When we think of iconic anime moments, we think of stuff like, yo, that was so hype, or that was so anime moments. When we think of iconic anime moments, we think of stuff like, yo, that was so hype, or that was so sad, or damn, that was so shocking. But when you watch enough anime, you start to notice familiar patterns in the premise, the stories, and definitely the moments
Or you go, oh, that's a best girl.
that define them. A big climactic fight, a plot twist you don't see coming, a sad death of a character. There are so many great moments like these that are extremely powerful in their own ways, but isn't something you generally haven't seen before. Yes, Demon Slayer episode 18 is absolutely hype, but so are a lot of other beautifully animated high-intensity fight scenes. But sometimes there's a moment in an anime that just sticks out for me for different reasons. Some may even say that they hit different. I said it! I said the thing! These are moments that might not be the most hype, most iconic, most talked about, or even the most memorable. But for one reason or another, they've just refused to leave my mind. So I've compiled a short list of Giguk's random anime moments that live rent-free in my mind in no particular order or theme. Yes, I'm only making this so I can nerd out about shit I don't get to talk about enough. Obviously, there's going to be spoilers, so I'll make sure to show what I'm going to talk about before I start each segment. But if you're anything like me, I have this awful habit of discovering shows and movies I want to watch by watching out-of-context scenes I've recommended on YouTube, even if they are full of spoilers. I know, okay?
So, I'll do my own, like, small list, real quick. Yaboy Kume, Code Geass, Bleach. There was, I won't say why, so maybe you'll fucking watch this, you fucking normal, like, a regular person that is not a degenerate. Sentiment to a certain extent, I'd say. And I guess it, like, other things like, let me think about it. That's all I can think about. So maybe I'll find something later.
Hey, maybe you're as broken as I am, but without further ado, let's get to it. But before I start my first pick, a quick word from today's sponsor. Guys, you know what time it is? It's Boxu time. Boxu is a premium Japanese snack box that works with businesses all over Japan to bring you authentic snacks from their country. You get a new theme of great treats every month sent straight to your door. Look at this box. Now, this box can hold a lot of treats, I tell you. As you guys know, summer is coming up, which is why this month's theme is Midori Summer. That means green summer. I'm not hungry, Josie. Yes, June is rainy season in Japan, which is when we get the best greenery and fruits a man could ask for. And all the snacks in here reflect just that. Alright, first we've got some shiro miso senbei. I need something savory first before I get to the sweet, so let me give this a shot. Oh, that smells so delectable. Oh, who needs lunch when you got Boxu? Holy crap, this is hitting the spot. And oh my god, I just saw this. If you don't know, these sable cookies are goated. This one's the pear sable cookie. I've never had the pear flavor before, so... The perfect cookie doesn't exist. Oh wait. Oh, nice and soft and rich. God damn. So if you want to try some awesome Japanese snacks today and also help support my channel, click the link in the description to get some Boxu for yourself or a friend. You can also use code GIGUK to get $15 off your first Boxu purchase. Thank you very much to Boxu for sponsoring me today. Back to the video. Give me more. Give me more. Music performances. The climactic moment in any music anime that separates the men from the boys, the women from the girls, the beeps from the boops. I'm not even a big music guy, but great performances can be some of my
This is Yaboy Kume.
personal favorite moments in all of anime. There is a wave of emotion you can get that is different from a hype fight scene or a sad dramatic scene. Haruhi, K-On!, Your Lie in April, Angel Beats. There are a lot of iconic music scenes in anime, but to me, no performance has made me feel such a journey of emotions as much as Kids on a Slope. Episode 7. When you hear that the director and composer of Cowboy Bebop are teaming up again to work on a music drama revolving around jazz, you get excited. And this is coming from someone who doesn't know the first thing about jazz, except that one of the main tracks used in the show is the jazz classic Monin, which is aptly named because every time I hear that sexy jazz beat, it got me feeling like... Wait, no, wrong clip. Yeah, that'll do. It's Japan in the 1960s, and you have two best friends who are about one seductive look away from kissing their homies goodnight and shouting no JoJo. But at this point in the series, they are having a little bit of a lover's tiff. They aren't talking to each other, their music group has broken up, and their drummer has gone and joined another band right before the big school festival music performance. But, oh no! Something's gone wrong before they're about to get on stage! The setup was predictable, we knew what was coming, but that didn't detract from the magic we were about to see. The school is treated to the purest unplanned jam session between two musicians you could ask for, doing their own rendition of The Sound of Music's My Favorite Thing to Snow White's Someday My Prince Will Come. For 4 glorious minutes, their musicians become their voice actors. Not a single line of dialogue is uttered between them, but you understand everything they are saying to each other through the language of music, and like the audience, I was absolutely mesmerized. I'll be honest, I'm kind of illiterate when it comes to trying to break down or describe music, so all I can say is that the beeps and the boops fired up neurons in my brain so hard, it might as well have turned the serotonin being released into goddamn crack. Yo, this scene was so good. His jabs are so sexy, he got me more bricked up than all ecchi fan service anime I've watched combined. And just when I thought I couldn't get more bricked up, just when I thought they couldn't peak any harder, they pulled this out. In my mind, too many anime feel the need to talk over their performances, to tell you exactly what the characters are thinking, to tell you exactly what you should be feeling. And the beauty of
So I think that like this is an anime similar to Free Ran, where like watching it first time, I'm like, this is not the rhythm that I'm used to, and this is a different rhythm to Free Ran, basically. And like I guess you need to get into it like K on, right, to kind of like get the vibe and actually like get this reaction, because like from like a fucking bystander standpoint, I'm like, I know that like I need to get invested with that. I'm guessing like if you want to feel like you're gonna kiss the homie goodnight and fucking listen to some jazz, do the effort of like actually getting into it, you know, like just like do an extra effort to watch the show.
this scene is that they just let the music do the talking. From the perfectly accurate animation, to the callback to previous songs, to the character developments you see on stage, to the emotions this made me feel. This scene is a fucking masterpiece and my all-time favorite music performance I've ever seen in an anime. Voice acting. Without voice acting, we'd be watching a silent film, and great voice acting can elevate the most emotional scenes from an anime into something even more spectacular. I love you! Or it can break it. There have been so many amazing moments of
This is me like talking to my ex. Oh no. Wait. She didn't reciprocate it.
voice acting that I've seen in anime. I can't even come close to listing them all. From the serious to the sad, hype to emotional, to performances that are downright spellbinding, like Restless Vagrant. You idiot. We'll just steal off the miners. Now clearly, the art of voice acting peaked here, but that's a video game. Amazing voice acting features in some of the most iconic scenes in all of anime. So it's incredible that the first thing that comes to mind when I think of a single voice acting scene that dropped my jaw to the floor is not from this, or this, but from a slightly above average studio trigger show that no one bloody remembers, when supernatural battles become commonplace. Jirai here is a Chinibyo. What does that mean? He's an edgy try-hard fuckboy. Think of every overplayed trope every bland isekai protagonist thinks makes them badass. Having a special power, possessing some super secret knowledge that only they know that makes them better than everyone. Basically everything that Sid from Eminence in the Shadow tries to be without a shred of self-awareness. That's this guy here, and Hakuto has had enough.
So you have chosen death.
Think of everything you've ever wanted to scream and shout at every edgy, too cool for school teenager you've met, and that's where Hakuto is. Because for 2 unstopping, uncut, unfiltered minutes, she just unloads.
This was actually became like so. This is such a powerful scene that I actually stumbled upon it like watching during my internet browsing, right? And this is actually really fucking legit. Like this is really fucking powerful.
She pops off and just keeps going and going and going, and just when you think she's run out of oxygen, she continues for another goddamn minute while upping the intensity. It is downright captivating. The most amazing thing about this is that it was rumored to be done in one take. The voice actress Saori Hayami had one shot, one opportunity, and she took it. Mom spaghetti. Stories from the staff members came out about how she nailed this on
Vomits on the sweater.
one take and left everyone in the recording booth in silence. And honestly, I can't blame them, because I think I'd realize soon that I just witnessed one of the best voice acting moments in history. Damn. Restless Vagrant got some competition. I love anime fans, but goddamn, some of y'all got that TikTok brain. If there's not a character getting punched or something exploding every 5 minutes, I gotta start playing some Subway Surfer at the bottom of the screen to make sure you guys are paying attention. But when done right, nothing is more engrossing to me than a good dialogue scene. Eren confronting Reinhardt, Yang Wenli meeting Reinhardt, pretty much anything from Monogatari. These are moments of nothing but characters talking that had me glued onto the screen more than any.
Okay, Monogatari. I need to rewatch it actually, so I will add it to Monogatari. Is this the one? It is the one. I watched it back in the day when I was an innocent soul that didn't knew better, and now I know better. So I need to rewatch it.
Michael Bay Mega Man ass explosion ever could. But the one dialogue scene I always come back to is the Banquet of Kings from Fate Zero, Episode 11. Alright, pause. Now I know this is less a scene and more an entire bloody episode, but that's how gripping it is. I've watched this subbed, I've watched this dubbed, I've watched this goddamn raw, and I'm still hooked from minute 1 to minute 20. And no, it's not because I get another chance to explain Fate. Alright, so let me explain Fate. What is the cut? We've got a battle royale to the death going on, where there can only be one victor out of 7 teams that comprise of 7 mages who are paired up with a hero, either from legend or real world history. Can't believe I'm fucking doing this again. Now at this point we are well into this battle royale. People have died, battles have already been fought, every team is at each other's throat. Then out of nowhere, one of the heroes busts through the enemy stronghold, turns up at that doorstep, faces off with them, and he's like, fancy going to the pub and grabbing a pint?
Day in the life of a true Brexit geezer. Pop down, have a couple pints with the lads.
That's right, no swords, no fights. What proceeds to happen is a whole episode of 3 of the heroes sitting around in a circle drinking and talking.
Just a
Oh no.
better banter.
This is a prime example of what happens when you put a bunch of interesting, larger-than-life characters in the room together and let them carry a scene with dialogue alone. Because while at the beginning, it's nice just to see these characters interacting without the pretense of a fight, it really starts to kick off when the topic of what it means to be a true king comes up.
I have every intention of plundering your abundant storehouse until it's been laid bare, so get ready.
That is hardly fitting of how a true king should behave.
You have Archer, Gilgamesh, Ryder, Alexander the Great, and Saber, King Arthur. 3
let me just remember that like I have like yeah, I just need to the fucking like name Monogatari.
legendary kings from their respective time periods with 3 different types of kingship. One of selfishness, one of ambition, and one of duty. Each of them presenting their case while tearing the others down, and it is enthralling. Because while there are no punches being thrown, I would argue that this is one of the most compelling fights in all of Fate Zero. It's a battle of ideologies using their words as their weapons. Not a single line is wasted, not a single useless sentence is uttered. This is what Twitter users see in their mind's eye. And what I love is just how bloody convincing they actually actually are. You don't start believing they're kings because the plot told us they were. You can see it. You start believing in them yourselves with the words that they say, because goddamn, it is delivered in an inspiring way for the people in its fictional universe and in real life as well.
You, who became a ruler, only to satisfy your endless greed.
A king without greed is even worse than a figurehead! Saber, you said you would martyr yourself for your ideals. In life, you must have been something akin to the purest of all the saints. But who can truly admire the rough and thorny path that a martyr must follow in life? Who actually dreams of such an ending? A king must be greedier than any other. He must laugh more loudly and rage for much longer, and embody the very extreme of all things, good and evil.
My man's out here making a case for being a tyrannical leader, and I'm somehow being convinced. Because I think the most amazing thing about this scene is that objectively, they are all right, and they are all wrong in their own way. It should be impossible for anyone to actually win this fight, yet through
And this is the greatness of great storytelling, stories, and just intellectualism as it is, where you diverge from rights or wrongs to someone being right next to someone being wrong to the different colors, where like there is no winner between blue, red, and purple and green, right? This is where like actually you get to a higher state of thinking, or just philosophy, just like, or storytelling, or it's like it's not more, it's not about your fucking numerical zeros and ones. One, you wrong, I'm right, you wrong, I'm right, right, I'm wrong, right? Something, it's colors. I'm blue and my tint is like that, and you are like purple, and like you cannot be fucking like wrong to me or right because you're a color. You get me?
sheer charisma and Giga Chad energy, a winner does emerge. Through his words and actions, Ryder is able to shake Saber's ideology to her core. His words cut deeper than any sword ever could, and if that wasn't enough, he ends things off with a demonstration that shows her what his kingship means. And he uses his noble phantasm, essentially his ult, don't worry about it, a move you should really not be revealing to your enemies willy-nilly just to prove a goddamn point. It was so worth it. This was the most epic conclusion for one of the most gripping dialogue scenes I've experienced from an anime. No matter who would eventually go on to win the Holy Grail War, ultimately Ryder won over our hearts in this scene, which was oh so on point for this legendary character.
My bond with them is my greatest treasure, my path to kingship, the ultimate noble phantasm that I possess.
Oh my god. His noble phantasm is the friends he made along the way.
Oh no.
Alright, that was a really long segment, so you know what? Anime dances. There's been a lot of iconic anime dances throughout the years. Hara Hara Yukai if you're in my generation, Chica Dance if you're a goddamn Zoomer, Jujutsu Kaisen ZD if you're on TikTok, JoJo's Torture Dance if you're on Grindr, but out of everything, there's been one dance I swear I've broken YouTube's replay button watching. Shirobako episode 16. Alright, so you gotta promise me. Promise me you're not gonna leave this video to find this clip and replay it 10 times after I finish playing it. Alright, promise? Like, pinky promise? I trust you, cause otherwise I'm gonna tell your mum. I swear I'm gonna tell her you're a little liar, pants on fire. Play the clip. That's it. That's the scene. You still here? When people talk about shonen battle series, we say stuff like, damn, that was such a banger fight scene, or damn, I can't believe this guy just called Jujutsu Kaisen mid, or damn, is that a Dragon Ball fan with more than 10 IQ? But beyond the fights, the salts, and the hype, nothing has quite sold me on a long-running shonen faster than the 20 minutes of chaos in Chainsaw Man Episode 9 and Makima's Ritual.
Yes.
Am I doing a bit of a cop-out by picking a moment from one of the most hyped recent anime? Yes. Did I want to talk about this so I have something to clickbait this video with in the thumbnail? Maybe. But this stands out to me as how to do a turning point in your story.
Happiness noises reminds me of like when I watched it.
Please don't kill me, Mushoku Tensei fans. More than any of the chainsaw massacring fight scenes, more than any of the boob-touching Makima caboose-sniffing action, this showcased that a battle shonen could do more than just drop a cool action scene on you. Because what stood out to me the most is that out of nowhere, the show just turns into a full-on survival horror as Makima looks at Light, laughs in his face, and goes, heart attack? What are you into, little baby shit? This is how you send a message. What gets me about this entire series is just the sheer emotional whiplash after everything that's been built up. We had 7 episodes establishing your usual shonen affair, then in just 1 episode you realize, oh, the people I thought were safe are definitely not. These villains are way more terrifying than I ever gave them credit for. Then the series doesn't even give us 5 minutes to process that before throwing a fat Uno reverse card in our face. You feel a sense of eerie dread for the bad guys that does a better job than 90% of horror anime have ever done. The direction, the music, her unsettlingly calm demeanor, the fact that these people can sense that they're about to die a violent death before they do is a fucking horrifying thought. And after everything is said and done, you're like, wait, should I be more terrified of the good guys or the bad guys here?
Yeah, you should be simping for Makima. Like, that's the right answer. Like, Makima best girl.
It's just such a brilliantly directed scene from start to finish that went beyond the great action you expect from a shonen. And if that was just a taste of the mayhem to come, Chainsaw Man Season 2 cannot arrive soon enough. Until then, I have to live with the scraps I've got to find out what's really going on behind the terror boner Makima has given us as the true horror antagonist herself. Flowers of Evil was an anime that looked like this.
Look at this dude.
This was a show that took some creative decisions with its art style and aesthetics, and when it aired in 2013, the internet destroyed it.
Yeah, but like 2013, okay, like but if we get to release like this today, like yeah, bro. This. If you know, you know.
Meme after meme, screenshot after screenshot, it got clowned on into obscurity, but now that time has passed, I think people are starting to realize that we didn't really give it a fair chance. Sure, sometimes the visuals look so bloody ridiculous that it looks more like a comedy than a thriller, but behind all that there is a truly amazing story being told here, one that explores the darkest parts of our human emotions that we bury behind the public mask we wear. And there's one scene that has always stuck out to me in this series that everyone had already written off. Flowers of Evil, Episode 7. Takao Kasuga starts the series as someone who believes he is different to everyone because that's the person he wants to be. Pretending to enjoy obscure poetry, being an all-around edgy twat. He's not like other boys. There are 2 wolves inside of him. Complicated girl. Nakamura sees him in a moment of weakness. She knows what perverted and sick desires lie beneath the surface he presents. She torments him, wears him down and blackmails him, tears into him for days until you see all of his fake ideals and the facade he wears crumble into nothing. This scene is that breaking point. We see him proceed to completely wreck the classroom in an explosion of catharsis as he embraces who he really is. With a sheer, visceral display of emotions, it is almost chilling, watching this manic destruction of their classroom as every layer of his old persona is peeled off one by one. This was the moment where I fully understood the creative vision. That semi-realistic, uncanny look on top of the eerie, unnerving music left me with a symphony of conflicting emotions few anime are able to make me feel. It was equal parts unsettling as it was beautiful. That final shot of the circle of chaos they created is an image that's etched into my mind. Just them laying there. 2 messed up teenagers in a room matching how fucked up things are in their head. This was then I understood. This was why the show looked like this. This was what Akunohana was meant to be. There was something special here, and it's sad more people didn't give this a chance for a season 2 to be made.
I guess I try to fucking like make something more fluid, more that like moves more compared to the static anime that you're used to. But like, do you know why it failed? It cost money, a lot of money.
There are many moments in anime that get me emotional enough to get the waterworks running. Sad parts that pull at the heartstring until there are no emotions left to ring out. But sometimes I watch a scene that makes me tear up even if there's nothing sad happening on screen. And one of those moments is the running scene from episode 2 of A Place Further Than the Universe. This scene hits me every time I rewatch it, bar none. And I still don't fully understand why, because I'm the only one I've talked to that has had this kind of emotional response to this moment. But if I had to quantify it, if I could pick a scene that so perfectly captures the carefree moments you remember from your younger years, this is it. It is pure freedom. We all have a cherished memory tucked away somewhere of some dumb crap you got up to as a kid. That one random thing you and your mate did on that summer holiday. Getting up to some stupid antics on that one trip you took with your siblings or family. We didn't realize how precious those moments would be, or how fondly we'd look back on them when we were older. And what gets me is this overwhelming feeling that we're seeing one of these precious memories being made right in front of us. 3 girls going out of their comfort zone to go on an adventure and just having the time of their lives doing dumb shit. I will never not adore this moment, maybe even more so than some of the more serious scenes in the series. It might not be the most hype, the most sad, or the most dramatic moment you can find in anime, but it gets me emotional in a way few are ever able to. God, I love this show! And that was everything I had time to talk about today. I didn't even get through a tenth of everything I could have talked about, but I don't want this video to be an hour, so who knows? If you guys like this enough, maybe I'll do some more of these types of videos. If you didn't already know, I'm going to be touring Europe with Trash Taste in September this year. A lot of tickets have already...
If you get the chance to watch Trash Taste, give it a chance. It's a podcast. I know it's a podcast. Watch it anyway. It is that good.
Sold out, but we have a few venues with some availability, so if you're in the area, get your tickets now while they're still available. I'll leave a link in the description for all the available venues left. And of course, thank you to the patrons this month: Alpha Sigma, Author Curtis Eckstein, Basil, Dysfunctional DJ.
Oh, that must be me, dysfunctional degenerate. I didn't know there was a picture of him. Like, hey, bro, like, just tell me goodbye, good night. Alright. Alright. So let me continue in this. So, what else? I'll go for. I'll go for like one more actually, because like I didn't notice, but like most of the every single fucking video. Yeah, I'll go for 2 more. Every single video is fucking like 20 minutes long, and it's like with my commentary on top of that, it's just like, hey, bro, you okay? Like you okay wasting like 2 days like for fucking watching 2 YouTube videos? Not because if you're okay, come back, but like why not? Why not? Actually, why not? I'll finish with some WoW after like all the fucking like you wanna know how to fucking want to desire to kill yourself. I can show you just through watching some YouTube videos and some dude talking about like stuff that you really don't want to fucking be interested in ever. I guess maybe I don't care. So this is the Dragon Paradox. So I don't know what it's about. I just know that like big number must be interesting. I'm actually really curious that like it what the fuck it even talks about.
The problem started with a book. Actually, I suppose it started with a show, Dragons, a Fantasy Made Real, that I watched enraptured late one school night. And you could say it made me a little obsessed, not just with dragons, but with the paradox right there in the show's title. If dragons aren't real, the show asked, how does seemingly every culture, no matter how far apart, have legends of the same creature? It's a question that kind of ruined my life.
That's actually an interesting point. I heard this point before. It was like because of the counter argument that I heard was because of serpents, right? And the scare of serpent through like basic evolution or some stuff like that. But technically, like serpents are not everywhere, so who knows?
Who are you?
I'm the LaCroix Dragon!
There's one obvious solution to the dragon paradox. 7-year-old me would have told you. Dragons are real animals. They can just like turn invisible or something, and that's why scientists haven't noticed. And to be fair to my younger self, the worldwide predominance of the dragon myth is genuinely remarkable. There is a fascinating anthropological mystery we need to unravel here. But young me wasn't here for that. I was going to prove that dragons existed as living, breathing creatures. So I went to a primary source. I had a few dragon books when I was younger, but really I had one dragon book. Dragonology is the text that truly began to slow cook my mind with dragon fever. These pages seem to contain answers for my every burning question. How dragons breathe fire, how they took flight, the consistency of their dung. And the whole thing was written from the perspective of a fake naturalist. It's really no wonder I treated it like an actual guidebook. It's really no wonder I became so obsessed. Yet there was a problem. None of my sources were lining up. Books and documentaries disagreed on whether dragons were friendly or aggressive, two-legged or four-legged, a few meters long or a few hundred. Looking directly at global myths and legends only frustrated me further. Everything seemed inconsistent, like these things were made up. But I wasn't ready to give in. Obviously, I reassured myself, there are multiple species of dragon, and different cultures have interacted with different ones. This taxonomy-based explanation for divergences in folklore was the loophole many of my favorite pieces of dragon media employed anyway. So I began to obsessively categorize the dragons of fiction and mythology, disqualifying interpretations that failed to meet my invented criteria for real dragons. If a dragon had hair, not a dragon. If it couldn't fly, not a dragon. If it sang about reading, actually those dragons got a pass. I thought the blue one was cool. Looking back, this full-blown fixation on classification is kind of funny and kind of, I spent a lot of time wandering into imagined realms during this period, researching and looking for dragons, and though I remember being happy, I also remember feeling isolated, and just generally confused about why everyone seemed to interact with the world so differently than I did. And somehow, I thought the solution was to talk about dragons more. I felt that if I could explain the topic well enough, if I could disentangle the taxonomy and solve the paradox, I could... I don't know. So it almost felt like fate when at the peak of my dragon-themed social idiosyncrasy, DreamWorks released the first How to Train Your Dragon film. A story about dragons, but also otherness, maturity, empathy, loneliness, and being an outsider because you like dragons too much. Yeah, it's no surprise this movie struck a chord with my young self. At its core, How to Train Your Dragon explores why a social outsider might sympathize with or even relate to the non-human or monstrous. At the start of the film, lead character Hiccup desires societal acceptance, which in his Viking culture requires physical strength and an unthinking readiness to commit violence against a demonized other, in this case dragons, two traits he distinctly lacks. When he finally gets the chance to kill a dragon and gain approval, his guilt prevents him from finishing the job.
I did this.
Instead, he nurses the creature back to health, and though Hiccup believes the reason he befriended the dragon instead of slaying it is because he's weak and an overthinker, it becomes clear the real reason is because he couldn't help but connect with the dragon's plight. he encountered a frightened, lonely, ostracized being and saw his own reflection. Now, I'm not going to act like young me was conscious of all these themes. I was mainly pulled in by the dragon's designs, the music, which is just what it actually sounds like to ride a dragon, I'm sure of it, and the fact the narrative pauses around the hour mark to show us a detailed classification system. Let's go.
Let me just check out, like, so I need to check out my trauma about, like, the same fucking thing. Like, fucking damn it. Where is it? So. Okay.
Though on some level I connected my experiences to that of the protagonists, I honestly wasn't self-aware enough to do so more than subconsciously. I remember thinking, wow, it sure would be tough to be an overly obsessive social castaway. Good thing everyone thinks I'm the coolest. It can be a challenging thing to reflect on your past self. I was cleaning out my childhood attic recently, and I found some old dragon drawings that brought back mixed memories. Recollections of sitting on my own, creating sketch after sketch. I recall how tightly I pressed the pencil, like I was trying to will dragons into existence through the sheer force of my tiny hand. In the book An Instinct for Dragons, anthropologist David E. Jones theorizes that creating art of draconic monsters is a deep-rooted human instinct derived from an intrinsic fear of reptilian predators. Although most scholars disagree with
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Jones's findings, I certainly recall my art coming from someplace primal. The truth is, no single explanation for the cultural universality of dragons is entirely sufficient. Looking around the animal kingdom, there's all sorts of species that might have birthed scaly legends in the minds of ancient people. Hell, the very word dragon comes from the Latin draconis, a term synonymous with large snake. But not all cultures with dragon myths exist in proximity to formidable reptiles. Dinosaur fossils have a broader distribution, and one can certainly imagine how such remains might also conjure draconic images, but direct connections are difficult to prove definitively. The anthropological origins of dragons likely aren't a straight line. Fiction is simple. The truth is, well, it's messy. I think that's part of why child me held so tightly onto the idea that dragons were literal creatures. I wanted them to be direct, categorizable, something that I could understand and control. I could at least know my dragon facts. Perhaps it's only natural for those who struggle or have struggled with human interaction to seek knowledge of the monstrous. I've been rereading Ryoku Kuri's monster-centric manga Dungeon Meshi now that it's being adapted into an anime, and it's kind of wild how closely parts of it track with my personal experience. Well, in a way. What begins as a standard fantasy adventure narrative quickly goes off the rails, as the protagonist, Laios, an archetypal knight in shining armor, is revealed to be a monster fanatic determined to study and, cook every creature in the dungeon. It's like Lord of the Rings meets an episode of Chopped. It's so unapologetically bizarre. But Dungeon Meshi ultimately offers a surprisingly nuanced reflection on what it means to process the world differently. Through the series, we're shown Laios.
This is actually true because basically you get your expectation really, like, it's a show that like I didn't finish because I didn't got into the vibe of it, but it really takes like it really like settles you down for like this adventure, right? And with like, and you meet the cool story, the best girl and everything, and then it's like about cooking. And then it never stops talking about cooking, and it's actually fucking brilliant.
Cannot pick up on
But not for me.
social cues the same way as his peers, nor does he recognize that most people don't want to hear a never-ending barrage of monster facts. Though often framed through a comedic culinary lens, Laios' desire to comprehend the non-human ultimately stems from his difficulties connecting with the human. Perhaps Dungeon Meshi's greatest achievement is its ability to pull you into Laios' perspective. Like How to Train Your Dragon, the narrative is willing to slow down and linger on the granular details of its world, getting so specific with food preparation that if you had monster parts on hand, I think you could cook these meals. It's a story just as singularly obsessed with monster biology and their classifications as its protagonist, and teaches the viewer to think in the same terms. And even if you don't share the same particular enthusiasm, that desire to know a topic inside and out, to fully understand the rules of a subject is, at least for me, a relatable one. Though my obsessions aren't exactly the same, I've never wanted to eat dragons, I do know what an all-consuming interest feels like. But no matter how hard I tried, dragon taxonomy seemed impossible to fully digest. There was no untangling it. The truth I eventually had to face is that the definition of dragons across cultures was looser than my sources had suggested. As it turns out, dragons don't exist in the same way that fish don't exist. Okay, that sounds weird. What I mean is, we all understand what fish are, but because all land vertebrates are fish descendants, there's no taxonomic definition of fish that doesn't include humans. Lots of animal taxonomy gets blurry in this way. Like, reptiles make sense as a category of similar-ish scaly creatures, but since birds are descended from dinosaurs, they technically fall under reptilia too, which does not feel right. That doesn't mean these terms are useless, just that life's categories aren't as orderly as they seem, and folkloric nomenclature like dragons work the same way. In my attempts to make dragons fit an inflexible structure, I remember following models I'd seen in books, labeling wingless dragons as drakes or legless dragons as worms. But really, all I was doing was applying false rigidity to terms that, in myth, were more fluid. The worst offender was how I called any two-legged dragon a wyvern. And, okay, this is a rant I've been on before, but it's very close to my heart. All over the internet, people still claim that any dragon with two legs is automatically a wyvern. In comment sections for Lord of the Rings and Game of Thrones, you will find commenters repeating this like it's doctrine, saying that Tolkien or George R. R. Martin are idiots for giving their dragons two legs. Those are obviously wyverns. And I get it. Believe me, I get it. If there is a person on this planet who gets it, it's me. You want clean categories, you want to be experts, but dragons in medieval manuscripts have never had a consistent number of legs. I wish it were true that wyverns were an exclusive subcategory for two-legged dragons, that folklore divided up creatures like D&D monster types. But mythological taxonomy, like biological taxonomy, is fluid, no matter how much young me wanted to pretend otherwise.
I do the quick cooking!
7-year-old me would have called this blasphemy, but the fluidity of dragon definitions is something that media framing them as real, frankly, takes advantage of. How does seemingly every civilization, no matter how far apart, have legends of the same creature? Well,
just let me check something.
they don't. Not really. The definition of dragon is so decentralized that countless, likely unrelated creatures across cultures can be made to seem draconic if you squint. So many of the categories applied to dragons are arbitrary. It's questionable that the relatively modern Western dragons are often called true dragons, considering that the serpentine dragon model more common in other parts of the world is almost certainly older. Yet it's hard to let go, or at least it was for me, to resist that urge to group everything by type. It's hard not to wish dragon classification worked more like...
Let's now turn to Nintendo's newest game, Pokemon.
I think that for a lot of people, the desire for rigid categorization of fictional creatures comes from one franchise in particular. I never had a Game Boy or DS to play Pokemon on growing up, but I didn't need to play the games to know I liked their dragons. Specifically, I liked that they were categorized.
Dragons from like Pokemon are really fucking sick. Like people tend to forget because Pokemon, but like if you just take the time to take just like the dragons from Pokemon and just like describe them as dragons, they're fucking sick as fuck.
A series all about types, Pokemon seemed made for me. I remember how ecstatic I was when I finally got my hands on an old Pokemon encyclopedia at a yard sale. Finally, I thought, here's a franchise that values creature classification the way I do. But pedantic little complainer that I was, I remember vocally objecting to what Pokemon placed in the dragon type. Many of the creatures bestowed that title hardly seemed scaly, scary, or dragon-y enough to be deserving of the designation, and other Pokemon I thought should qualify didn't make the cut. I always figured this was just a me thing, but while researching for this video, I found out that lots of people share my opinion and have taken to the internet to complain. People have strong feelings about Pokemon classification, a fact I learned when I mixed up the regions in my old Pokemon biology video, which is still the mistake I've gotten the most comments about. And I think that's great. Seriously, I understand that kind of passion. But in the case of Pokemon's dragon type, I wonder if we're being a bit too harsh. Dragons in folklore aren't as consistent as we like to pretend. If medieval artists didn't have to limit their imagination with what counted as a dragon, maybe Pokemon artists shouldn't either. Maybe forcing things that are made up to follow strict taxonomic parameters is a little limiting. Weirdly enough, I actually think the How to Train Your Dragon series is what eventually allowed young me to overcome my obsession with fictional rigidity. Because those films almost completely threw out the plot of the original books, and I remembered not caring. And this was at the age where if an adaptation was even slightly different from the book, I took it upon myself to care. A lot.
Okay, how much of a fucking fanatic of dragons this man is. Like, just like, if he says that, it becomes like the scary zone of like, you're not a fan, you're a fanatic. I respect that, but like, chill the fuck out, I'm scared of people.
But these films had their own themes, and needed to rework how dragons function conceptually to fit those themes. In the books, Hiccup's dragon Toothless is this weedy little thing, not an intimidating personification of the unknown, and Vikings and dragons get along from the start. But directors Dean DeBois and Chris Sanders recognized a narrative about an outsider connecting with the monstrous required a rework of the established lore. And even young me could admit it made the story better. For the first time, I remember considering if fictional uniformity was perhaps a little juvenile. I wish I could say my fixation on dragon classifications ended peacefully as the natural result of outgrowing the subject, but that's not what happened. On the cusp of my teenage years, fear of seeming immature, of being an outsider, led me to go full scorched earth, trying to erase any record of my childish interests. You might have noticed I used a stock image for my Pokemon encyclopedia. That's because I threw the real copy away. And I wanted to throw my dragon books away too. I would have if they hadn't gotten lost in a box years ago. The same is especially true for my drawings, which to preteen me were, as something I created, an excruciating reminder of the person I used to be. If they hadn't too been forgotten, I honestly might have burned them. And it's hard, even now it's hard, to overcome that fear of childishness. There is still, on some level, someone else's voice in my head telling me I should laugh at and belittle my past self for... what? Having an imagination? I said at the beginning of this video that the question of how so many cultures have legends of the same creature kind of ruined my life. That's honestly not entirely fair. Yes, dragons, a fantasy made real, just appeared on TV one day with footage of what looked like a real scientist finding a dragon's corpse. Yes, that convinced me that dragons were real, kicking off a lifelong fixation, but is that the documentary's fault? The narrator guy does say, what if the legends were true? It was 7-year-old me who heard the legends are definitely true and it's your job to prove it. To be honest, I was probably always going to turn out the way I did. It's just how I was made. It's a curious thing to be born different. You can feel the shape of this person you were expected to be, and you find yourself wondering why you aren't that person. And I still don't know exactly what's up with me. I don't have the precise label or category for it. I think I'm alright with that. Likewise, as I'm sure you've probably guessed, there is no single solution to the dragon paradox, which, yes, I know isn't strictly a paradox. And maybe it's a groan-worthy conclusion that the real answer was the friends or dragons we made along the way, but that feels right to me. Dragons have been with us since civilization's beginning. It's actually possible that, like most languages, all draconic myths stem from the same ancient root. It's also possible that making dragons is just something that humans do. That we independently find them in pieces of driftwood, in bends of rivers, in the patterns of the sky. There's evidence that a 3rd century Chinese historian labeled dinosaur fragments as belonging to a dragon around the same time peasants did the same thing with whale remains a continent away in Central Europe. And when I think about these past humans, linked through how they chose to imagine a more exciting explanation for the phenomena around them, I like to picture a connection across time to my younger self, doing the same thing. I've spoken in past tense a lot in this video, about who I was, the person I used to be. But I mean, a quick glance at my channel and the sheer number of dragons and creature classification videos I've made, and it's clear that's all still a part of me. I've just found ways to manage my obsessions and channel them into new outlets, and though teenage me might be mortified, I think it's important to make peace with your past selves instead of trying to bury them. While making this video, sorting through the remnants of my childhood, I started thinking about how I haven't drawn anything in a while, so I picked up my pencil again.
I was about to say, like, I didn't say it, so it'll sound like a liar, but like, I really thought that, like, and hoped that, like, you didn't fucking, like, abandon his dragon drawings. Like, they're like cool looking. I hope he keeps making them.
Still fascinate me. And it's clear they still fascinate the world as well, continuing to be part of culture, changing forms as worldviews shift, never but so beholden to strict categories. I wouldn't want it any other way. And as always, thanks for watching. This ended up being more of a personal essay than I had anticipated, but hey, if you enjoyed this entry, please lend your support by liking, subscribing, and hitting the notification icon. It helps me out tremendously. See you in the next video, and stay curious.
So, yeah, this was interesting. Like, actually, the way that he perceives it, and if he makes fair points, and why not fucking, like, allow yourself to fucking believe in fantasy for like 5 minutes in between your fucking like unhealthy nihilistic habits. Why not? Give yourself a chance. Maybe you'll find happiness in here. I know I did, but like you're not me. So give yourself a chance to believe in fantasy. All right, let's go back to Cold Hard. Fucking what didn't I fucking like watch like enough of. Wow, actually because tomorrow I need to fucking like I keep on the grind. So tomorrow whenever I fucking like get the time. So yeah, let's watch some dude asked why people do not like retail. I play retail, I play modern WoW. Why? But classic players. So new players or like returning players. I'm actually curious to watch it and see if it's like fair points or misguided points, or if it's like players that actually are missing because fuck people who I don't know will fuck I meet in Mythic Plus, but God damn, find salvation somewhere else. God fucking damn it.
Okay, so I put my internet journalist pants on again and dove deep into the world of Reddit and Blizzard forums to find out why classic players don't like retail WoW. As a person who enjoys both classic and retail, I was curious to find out why so many people prefer to stick to the classic version of the game. I scrolled through many older posts around the subject and made posts of my own, and this is what I asked. I managed to get over
Classic players, why don't you play retail? As a person who enjoys both classic and retail, I'm curious to know what people don't enjoy about retail and why they prefer classic. I would love it if people were able to answer these questions. What things do you find unappealing in the retail version of the game? What things do you think are better in classic? What do you like about retail, if anything? What will you need to change to consider playing retail? As a person who enjoys... It's the same.
400 answers, and this video is entirely based on the data gathered from those answers and some other older forum posts.
So this is interesting because I kind of why WoW Classic is so popular, and I actually asked myself the question, how the fuck they can still release like new fresh classic servers? And some dude talked about like game design and like that was actually part of the lost footage. I don't fucking know. But basically like he talked about game design, but like what matters here is like the opinion of people. Like I'm actually like quite tempted to hear these opinions and like see if they're valid, legit or not. Like or if I'm just like missing like actually like people that like don't fucking wish me death in Mythic Plus. Like let's fucking like do that, shall we?
Now, the last time I did a video like this about why PvEers don't like PvP, I tried to find solutions to all the problems people brought up, but in this video we're not gonna do that because, well, you'll find out when we get to the last question I asked in my forum posts. So this video is going to be more of an essay type video where we find out the most popular reasons why some people prefer classic over retail. I'm also going to try to explain all of the topics of this video the best I can and also share some of my personal thoughts on these matters. And with that, let's move on to the video. Okay, let's start with the most brought up topics that classic players find.
Gotta suggest he's got like some fucking fancy fucking transmog. That's a fucking fancy fucking dude.
Unappealing in retail WoW. After reading all the answers and posts, I started with listing the most often highlighted issues and divided them into 5 main topics that we will cover in this video. These are MMO feeling, power progression, focus on endgame, complexity, and Warcraft feeling. So, MMO feeling. When you think of an MMO or massively multiplayer online game, what are the first things that come to your mind? For me, it's a large world, lots of players, and most importantly, interaction between those players.
In Mythic Plus telling me that I should kill myself.
Now, WoW is an MMO
or just quit the game.
RPG, but a lot of people
or not play as my role
said that they feel like retail has lost the MMO feeling, and that retail is moving further and further away from the MMO part and leaning more towards an RPG. Many people said that retail doesn't feel like an MMO because of 2 main reasons: social interactions and the open world. Let's start with social interactions. Retail WoW is definitely a more antisocial game than Classic. And this is mostly because of the fact that over the years, Blizzard has tried to make accessing endgame content more convenient through LFG, and now most of the endgame is interacted with through queuing for it in the LFG tool instead of interaction between players. This has made it way easier and less cumbersome to do endgame content, but it has also removed a lot of social interaction between players. The LFG tool has also reduced the need to keep up social connections with good players you enjoyed playing with, because it's so easy to find people for your groups through the LFG tool. Also, the whole fast-paced and skill-based endgame formula of retail often leaves little room and time for socializing with other players, and people are more focused on clearing the content as efficiently and as fast as possible. Many classic players find this more antisocial environment unappealing, and for that reason prefer classic and the social interactions that come with it. Okay, let's move on to the open world part of the MMO feeling. Retail WoW has had 9 expansions added to the game over the last 20 years, and with each of those expansions have come more zones and areas for players to explore. The downside to this, however, is the fact that while the open world has grown larger and larger, the player base of Retail WoW has only grown smaller. The outcome of this is that there are far less players out there in the different zones of the open world, especially the older zones that don't have anything to do with the current endgame content.
So this is actually with the inter-server, like basically like each time you go to a zone, like people from different servers, you get to see them. This doesn't happen, but it's true that like there's a difference between like people from different servers and sticking with the same people from like the same servers. I remember like just like re-seeing the same people over and over gets like it gets you to a different like type of feeling, type of vibe.
Feel empty and dead because there is really no incentive for players to go into those zones. This results in many people feeling like they're playing a solo game, since outside of the current expansion zones you rarely come across other players. Having an empty open world kills the MMO feeling of the game for many people and makes the game feel more like an RPG than an MMORPG. Many Classic players say that the open world in Classic feels much more alive, and for that reason they enjoy it a lot more. Now that we're done talking about the MMO feeling, let's talk about power progression. I would argue that most MMORPG players enjoy the feeling of seeing the time and effort put into the game bear fruit in the form of their characters growing stronger and more powerful. This is, in fact, a very important part of the game for many players of WoW and other MMORPGs as well. And in Classic WoW, in my opinion, the player power progression is done very well, and more time put into playing almost always results in a more powerful character. Whereas in Retail WoW, the power progression system is very convoluted and distorted because of the different systems implemented throughout.
I say that like is just overbloated. Like that will be kind of like convoluted and distorted as well. Like I'd say complicated, but also overbloated and just like overwhelming. Whereas like, but yeah, I mean, like, it still works to some. It works for me, but I'm not an average player. I'm a dude that actually like looks about analytics, about like fucking game design. So obviously, so for new innocent players, like basically the good newbies that actually people fucking love to hate for some reason, well, classic is the better experience, and they can maybe replace someday the fucking people that I see in fucking Mythic Plus. Goddammit. Where do you live? What's going on in your life to be so mean? But yeah, so this is kind of like the new players, and I think that like it's a like they get what they want, and they don't feel like you don't feel overwhelmed or over like just like mm, just like you don't resent this frustration of like too much at once. It's kind of like similar to the paradox of choice. You know, like when you sell products, offering too many choices to your consumers actually it creates choice paralysis, that's called, I think. And because of that, it's actually like less marketable to actually like sell a big variety of products. So let's say Coca-Cola, right? Coca-Cola has like many products. You know what? Unless you live in Japan, they don't do, is they don't sell them at the same time. And basically, like choice paralysis when it comes to consuming is kind of similar to what people can experience in World of like in modern WoW, retail WoW. Choice paralysis because, bro, what the fuck do you do? There's Mythic Plus and the Delve and the Raid, but like there's PvP as well. But like there's like cool lore and like the cinematics, but like Zazath, like Brad's girl, right? But like and but like on this one, like well on the and so basically it's the idea of having a menu, like going to, I'll give you this example. This is an example that actually like will actually like uh clarify, like just like show like explain to you simply what I'm trying to tell you. You're going to a Chinese restaurant. It has 400 dishes. You don't know anything about fucking Chinese food except like one or two dishes. And then there is another Chinese restaurant, four dishes. Four. Which one you'll be happier to fucking go and like over, like in which one you'll have a better experience? 400 dishes? You have to look at the fucking menu and everything is fucking like the names are all Chinese and you are nothing but Chinese, right? Or the four dishes and it's kind of like, let's say like a Subway or like a fucking like McDonald's type, right? A small franchise type of stuff where it's like you get your four dishes, you get what the fuck you want, and you actually don't fucking like have this frustration and choice paralysis when consuming. And so this is kind of like the difference between classic WoW and the modern WoW, where like you feel this choice paralysis, and it's like really like for a lot of people watching the YouTube videos and us, like the people who fucking talk to you, right? Like we actually fucking tend to forget that like you, the average player, you are not us. The fucking dude that actually tells you, I know how to set up a fucking stream, I know how to fucking set up like a video game experience, I know how to narrate my video game experience, and then do analysis of my video game experience while watching analysis of someone else's conclusions of his video game experience. Like most people, they just play video games, dude. Like that's it. And but they're fascinated by like people who actually can fucking like tell them like what the fuck is going on and why it makes them happy. Like, but yeah, like I think that like to be fair, like choice paralysis, similar to consumer choice paralysis, is one of the causes of like the struggles of modern WoW compared to classic WoW
throughout the years. Okay, let me try to explain this a little bit. First of all, in classic WoW, the player character's power progression is very linear from the very first level all the way up to the final endgame content. As you gain levels and gear, you feel their effect and get a satisfying loop of feeling your character's power grow and allowing you to take on more challenging content, which then again results in better gear and more levels. In retail WoW, however, more often than not, the level scaling of enemies and stats make it so that as you gain more levels, you actually become less powerful as enemy scaling systems start to take effect. This feeling of your character getting worse while progressing through the game seems to be a big turnoff for many players. Another thing that many classic players don't like about retail's power progression is the fact that it is, in their words, an infinite treadmill. What people are referring to here is the fact that retail WoW's seasonal progression system results in all power level progress becoming obsolete in the next season.
Yes, and this is actually like something like also valuable in classic WoW, is that like you get to know the end of the story and you get to fucking like go through it. It feels like in between like a single player story driven game RPG that is kinda sandboxy. And I fucking like MMO, where like here it's more like, well, you get the fucking treadmill. Yeah, you got the fucking treadmill, but at the same time, I think that like they did really a good job. They serve a good duty when it comes to storytelling, because like the treadmill exists, but the treadmill is not the story that they talk about. So basically, like Exaltaf being the best girl, out throning Sylvanas, and basically like all the stories of like well, between the Ord and the Alliance and the old gods and everything, that basically like actually like matters, and that are like outside of this treadmill, that people that he doesn't mention and that people tend to forget. Like some people like well for the story. I like WoW for Exaltaf.
This happens because of the huge gear item level differences between seasons, and also the various catch-up mechanics that help people reach better gear at the start of the season. This means that the gear that is hard to obtain in this current season will be very easy to obtain in the next one, making the effort put into gearing in the current season not feel so impactful in the long term. Lots of people that answered my questions disliked the fact that your power level in retail WoW only stays relevant for the couple of months the season lasts, and then you have to start your progress all over again. Next, I will try to make it more simple to understand the differences in power progression between...
Okay, let me just check. I have like a trauma response of like, is my mic still fucking functioning? So let me just... Okay, so yeah.
Retail and classic WoW through...
I look like a crazy person, it's alright, because my microphone did not die.
Some graphs, since it's a lot harder to...
It died today again. I still don't know why the fuck it just breaks down.
Try and explain in words. Okay, let's start with Classic WoW. Like I said before, Classic WoW's power progression is very linear. You start at level 1, and each level and each gear upgrade will make you stronger and make it easier for you to overcome challenges. This is not affected by any scaling systems, so for example a level 55 elite will be hard to kill at level 55. But once you get to level 60 and you obtain some gear, the elite will be much easier to kill.
But it will be still difficult. And this nuance actually like still exists in Modern WoW, but it's really well nuanced. And you really like need to check like your numbers, because like I noticed, and you can notice like in different content, but like yeah, average player, like think about the average players, they don't notice that. And so there is like way less satisfaction to actually like overcome this type of like challenges.
Whereas in retail, the scaling of enemies and seasonal resets make the power progression look more like a sine wave in a graph. Let's say an expansion starts at the very first peak of the wave and you have obtained good gear in the last expansion. As you start leveling and gaining more levels, the scaling systems start to take effect, and unless you constantly get good gear upgrades, the enemies will start to feel stronger and your character will start to feel weaker. This is usually at its worst around the time you reach the new maximum level. Only after you reach the new maximum level and start obtaining better gear will the power level scale start leaning in your favor. This same power level sine wave will also continue through the many seasons in the new expansion, as the seasonal endgame content is scaled for the new seasonal item levels. So, in a nutshell, many players prefer Classic because of the linear power progression, where every upgrade to your character will remain an upgrade, and power progression is not reset seasonally, and you can even take a year's break from the game and still have your character be as relevant as it was before you left. Many players feel as if they wasted their time gearing a character in retail, since that progress will eventually become obsolete.
So actually, now that I think of it, I think that like one of the greatest like outcome of classic WoW, there was like another MMO called Project Titan by Blizzard that was abandoned. But like what will be great will be actually an MMO fitting the needs and the rhythm and the architecture that people like within classic WoW, but new wave, right? this won't happen because we are not living like in the gaming industry that we were living in 15 years ago, 20 years ago. So sadly, maybe something else will maybe something else, but this will be the greatest outcome. That basically like classic WoW becomes like leads to like development of like another type of MMO that actually like follow the trails of classic WoW and not retail WoW, and allows for like these players to actually like discover a new story. Like that will be also like really enjoyable, like a new story from Blizzard, because Diablo was actually fucking awesome. But Overwatch didn't release any story like basically like we have WoW, we got Diablo not too long ago, but we got Overwatch, but before like Diablo 4 basically. The only storytelling that we got, if not for WoW or Hearthstone, is actually StarCraft. So so yeah, maybe some new storytelling. I don't know why Blizzard is fighting off like his own talent for storytelling, because like they're not like doing everything right. They're not great at everything, but when it comes to storytelling, they are really talented, and they prove it like through Hearthstone actually, because they're able to like sell so many stories and create so many like interesting tales through just a card game. Like why do you focus on fucking Overwatch, and why don't you try to sell more story? I don't fucking know, money problems. It's complicated, like but you get me.
Okay, next we're gonna talk about Retail WoW's focus on endgame. One of the major issues that classic players find off-putting about Retail is the fact that the game mostly revolves around current endgame content. The whole game feels like it's designed to rush you through the game and get you into the current endgame loop as fast as possible. This makes the leveling and early gearing part.
So I was talking about it like that. So when it comes to game design, there should be. This is a like it's not a mistake, but like the solution to that is actually really easy. Giving not choosing for the player to fucking gearing yourself and like getting to level 80, level max as fast as possible, but having the choice between like basically your classic WoW adventure or your classic WoW leveling adventure or your modern WoW leveling adventure. Like just having the choice, and then actually when it comes to like old content, recycling it through all like through all zones with max level mobs, basically, to actually being able to enjoy like a new type of storytelling, basically not new, but like not lose the storytelling, because game design will prevail over like good storytelling. Because overall, if you want to fucking join an epic adventure like I'm doing like right now in Suramar, it is not epic if I one shot every mob. It is not epic if I fucking walk around like a fucking demigod or a fucking god compared to everyone, while the story is actually fucking really fucking like interesting and interesting to discover, right? These are like two choices basically when it comes to game design that like they should allow. It won't happen, but like these are like actual solutions to the problems that like he mentions, offering the choice to players to fucking like level the way they want, max level zones, so you don't feel frustrated when you actually like try to just like understand the lore and discover the lore of the game. And then the ultimate solution will be actually maybe fucking like do a modern classic WoW MMO type, like when it comes to game design, and tell a new story. Why not? It's been like years since you did.
Part of the game feel more like an annoying obstacle than a natural part of the game. Many classic players feel like the leveling phase in Retail is simply too fast. The leveling is so fast that you can't even complete longer storylines of the game before reaching the maximum level. And for many people, the incentive to start doing the current endgame content at that point means that they rarely get to fully experience the stories and campaigns that the leveling experience has to offer.
Exactly. And this is exactly like the problem where it's like, yeah, dude, you just like walk in the first so in between Wrath of the Lich King and the Burning Crusade, you had to go through the whole story of the Burning Crusade to get to the Wrath of the Lich King. There was like no fucking like there was like the legacy gear, right, which allowed you to skip some, but you could not allow yourself to skip these stories. When today you get to Burning Crusade, you go to the Peninsula, you do the quest, your level, you're done with the expansion overall. And this is actually bad game design choices. But what can you do when you have like such a rich game? Like that's the problem also. The actual Blizzard face, where it's just like when you see like the actual numeric number of content and ideas and just like stuff that is just like mixed together, like it's just like so much that like unless you started like as a solo developer, and basically you get like a say like on everything, and basically like you're basically a dictator when it comes to game design, right, while being in a corporation. Unless you are like that, I don't like, you cannot really do that, because like there are like all the fucking economical problems that like you have to face when it comes to like the fucking shareholders and stuff like that, that like no one cares. Blizzard have to care about shareholders and stuff like that. This is why like see all the dream and fantasies and solutions that I can offer you will never happen, because it's real life, because this is real life, and real life is sad, real life sucks, and yeah.
The leveling phase of Classic WoW, however, is in stark contrast to what it is in the retail version. In Classic WoW, the leveling phase feels like a natural part of the game, and some players even enjoy it over the endgame content of Classic WoW. Leveling in Classic takes a long time, but for me and many others, it doesn't feel like an obstacle to be quickly overcome, but more like an experience to be enjoyed. I personally feel like the slower paced leveling of Classic WoW also allows you to learn your new classes more easily, as you're not bombarded with new abilities and passives left and right, and you have a lot of time to get used to how your different abilities work before you reach the maximum level. Okay, the next major topic we're gonna talk about is complexity. Many Classic players said that they feel very overwhelmed by the amount of different systems implemented to the game over the years. There are 20 years worth of different systems in the game, and while most of them are not relevant in the current content, there still are a lot of systems to learn and understand. What makes this situation even worse is the fact that often the game doesn't do a very good job of explaining these systems to players.
This system sucks. There, I said it. Well, how is anyone supposed to ever figure this out unless you read a whole freaking handbook? This doesn't make any sense.
Exactly. And this is like the part where it's like like if you, it's so like to add to the argument of like slower leveling and like maybe less min-maxing. Well, basically, if you had the time to fucking if it took like a reasonable amount of time to level, well, basically you'd get the time to actually like get into the game and understanding and not have this exact reaction. because during your leveling experience you would have the time to fucking like get like guided by the game to fucking understand what the fuck is going on. Because at this point, when it comes to retail, like the question is not how do I do this, it's what the fuck is going on. And this is the biggest problem, which allows for like really like it allows for like some sort of like challenge, but also this allows a lot of players that we like, the players from WoW, but like it's the same with League, it's the same with a lot of like games, are missing actually. Like we're missing a lot of players that are like just like there because they're not asking themselves how, they're asking themselves what the fuck constantly when playing the game. And because of that they just quite to tell you, bro, like well, I cannot know what the fuck, like I'm not even like trying to fucking like I don't understand what's going on my fucking screen. So I'll fucking choose something where like it actually fucking explains to me. So yeah.
These systems are also very hard to figure out intuitively, so more often than not, you have.
And the answer of fucking Google it when it comes to a video game is not valid anymore. Okay? Like this is like also like the yeah, you just have to fucking get an add-on, like you just have to fucking no. Like the fucking modern player do not have to fucking do your chores as a fucking game designer because you made such complicated systems. They should launch the game, get into the game, and never fucking get out of the game unless they want to fucking like get back to actually being happy, right? But like when it comes to game design, they should not like get outside of the gaming experience if they want to progress. Like this is like some high-end type of like stuff that can happen for like some players, right? But like but like I'm talking about the new player that actually got the expansion, that really is happy just about discovering the fantasy world, and then some fucking grown up tell him, hey bro, you gotta fucking Google this because or else you won't fucking know. And like for me, like doing raiding, for example, I have to fucking watch a YouTube video that lasts fucking like 20 to 30 minutes and take the time to fucking understand what's going on to actually getting to heroic raiding, right? The new player will never do that. And this is like the thing that like people miss. But like when it comes to like the community, game designers are to blame. Yeah, but like they still sell a good product. The players are to blame. Like, oh my fucking god. Like, I cannot believe how fucking childish this community can be when it comes to this elitism that people have, and this fucking like just mockery of themselves that like these people are, because they're like, it's a bunch of adults that fucking like assault other adults, and basically on knowledge that they miss in a game that basically do not allow you to get this knowledge easily. It is the same with Dota, it is the same with League of Legends, and this is why I'm telling you, best game ever, fucking Genshin Impact. Go fuck yourself with your like or like solo driven storytelling game, right? And go fuck yourself with your elitism about like fucking Valorant or League or WoW or Final Fantasy or whatever the fuck. Because the second there's someone that fucking like wants to fucking hurt you because like the game didn't give you didn't fucking like give you the a leeway to fucking like be actually correct, which everyone will try. Well, it's a problem, but also the community is like to fucking blame. And as much as like I am within a community that like is chill about it, I fucking despise the fact, like I'll give you this a simple example. Mythic Plus, never tried it before. I get to enjoy it. I discovered that like people basically like you wipe once, you don't finish the dungeon. For the vault, you need like 10 mythic. You need to do 8 Mythic Plus per week to actually get the reward. You just need to finish the dungeon. It's not that fucking complicated. Just finish the dungeon and don't be toxic if you don't get the fucking like timer and like the extra loot. That's it. That's all you need, and they don't fucking do it. And because of that, like basically a bunch of childish people within like a sea of like people that just try to fucking have fun, right? Like I'm maybe too mean to this. I don't know, but like I'm having more fun like playing like doing my delves with my fucking guildmates, or like doing like random PvP with people that like really take themselves seriously but bother no one else than bother no one, than like the social activities where like you this similar fucking like nonsense in League of that you get in League of Legends, where like some fucking like, adult is like telling you, "Hey, go kill yourself because like I'm the reason," and it's like, bro, like I'm just trying to have fun here, like playing the character of my dreams, you know? Like go fuck yourself with your fucking like unhappiness and go find a life, bro.
Have to Google how they work. Another thing that creates a new layer of complexity to the retail version of the game is the fact that there are constant changes and updates being done to the game that affect class balance, systems, currency.
And actually, everything that I described about retail WoW, modern WoW, it doesn't happen in fucking classic WoW. None of this. Like, to the point where, like, even in hardcore, so you die once, you delete your character, servers, they're not as fucking toxic. Like, to just say, and it's insane. And it's like, I think it's like a modern trend just because, like, people are fucking, like, awful. And this is a good argument that I'll give to God that we should have never existed. Like, like if it's not like for like the three fucking like players that are still fucking enjoying these games, and actually like you get to have a fun time with them, and you get to not fucking question yourself about like your own well-being just because some fucking people cannot fucking be happy in their personal life, and they have to fucking counterbalance it on fucking like being a degenerate, not the good kind like me, in a fucking video games that like at the end of the day means nothing to no one.
And so on. And in order to keep up with these changes, players have to read developer blue posts on the forums and Wowhead. I personally read weekly hotfix blue posts and different updates weekly to stay on top of things that are happening in retail WoW. The fact that constant changes aren't being made to the classic version also means that you can take a long break from the game, and when you come back, the skills and knowledge you've gathered so far will still be relevant and useful. Whereas in retail WoW, taking a long break and returning to the game will often mean that the game has dramatically changed, and your main class, for example, might have reworked talents and a completely new, different playstyle, and your previous experience is no longer that relevant.
And actually, here's the fucking difference. I don't know, like, so I'd say like I played until Cataclysm, but like in between like Burning Crusade and the Wrath of the Lich King, like until Cataclysm, I don't know if it was the case because I had my community. I was like a guild leader, and like I had my fucking friends in it. But back in the day, so these changes were happening the same. But you know what you had? A fucking community that you didn't fucking want to kill. Or that wanted to kill you. This made these changes really interesting because basically like new paths, new stuff is happening. People are happy and people are asking each other, then what the fuck do we do? And they're not like fucking going on fucking like liquid or like method or like fucking like what is it called, like Wowhead fucking guides the on day one to fucking understand what's the best and basically stick to that without ever thinking about like maybe like doing something creative about like what they can. And the game allows for like creativity, like there is like way enough like so when it comes to game designers, they're to blame. Yeah, but like they are not like all powerful in this. Like a better community and just a better people will make a better game. And this is why like I think that like overall like maybe it will change. I really hope that like with the influx of like and the success of classic WoW, it will bring like just like a new community that is not the fucking like this fucking community that I see that really reminds me of fucking like the Valorant community, the League of Legends community, the fucking like and the fucking what's it called, Dota community. Or like you call the video game where like people wish you to die and tell you to fuck your mom while you're like wait, I am an adult and wait, you probably like earn more than me and you probably are older than me, bro. Like this shit was like fucking like back in the cringe internet days, like it was okay, but like on this one, bro, like when everyone has TikTok and you can min-max your fucking like your fucking career just watching like a 30 seconds video, bro. Like this is just pitiful and unallowed. It's just like the fucking like you're the star of the shit show that you don't know about, and everyone is aware, and no one tells you because there's so many of you. Basically.
Many people that answered my question.
Or basically people tell you and told you once and we all gave up. And so we just like have to fucking like handle the fact that like we still have to fucking like do like common chores with like this type of players. Which is like not your fucking 15-year like, and don't mistake me, it's not your fucking 15-year-old like player that is discovering the game. So it's just high energetic. Is it just like is there the most adorable people ever? Like it's the fucking like jaded fucking people that just like don't know what to do with their lives and tells you, yeah, let's fucking like make the life worse of like people random on the internet just because I'm sad inside and I cannot fucking like find an answer to this happiness, even though like there are many. Basically, I have like a lot of hatred. Like there's like all my hours like getting fucking called like a jerk and whatever the fuck playing Dota that like just got back to me, and yeah. Good moment to fucking tell you, you suck. I never liked you, and you do not play well as well. Like this is this common enemy that like me and my like a couple friends we just face, like that like I get to fucking rant about. Thank you for thank you life that like we're all gonna die. So I just know that like as much as it is sad that I'm gonna die, my loved ones will gonna die. They're gonna die as well. That was my TED talk.
Said that they enjoy classic WoW over retail for this very reason. Some people prefer the fact that they know exactly what they're getting from a new character and how class balance and different systems work from the very first levels to the final end game. Okay, moving on to our final main topic, which is Warcraft feeling. Many people seem to feel like retail WoW has over the years lost its identity and no longer lives up to the expectations people have for a Warcraft game, both story and graphics wise. The lore and look of the game has in many players' eyes been very Disneyfied, and the story no longer follows in the footsteps of the more brutal and war-focused pattern that Warcraft lore used to have. The story of the game now has more of an emotional focus, and the major cinematics and storylines focus more on very Disney-feeling topics of family and friendship and feelings, which is the very opposite of what some people expect from Warcraft lore. I'm sure some people enjoy how the current story of the game is developing, but especially many classic players think that the story of retail WoW has thematically gone in a wrong direction. A lot of WoW players grew up on Warcraft games and prefer to play classic WoW over retail because they feel like classic WoW still holds true to what they expect from a Warcraft game.
I'll say, when it comes to that, I'll just say that like when you have like 15 expansion and you make a game running for like 20 years, that's what happens. You get like a mix up and a mashup of like everything. And I'm actually surprised that like it still makes sense to any degree, to be honest.
Now we finally come to the last two questions that I asked classic players to share their opinions on, and the reason why I didn't try to figure out how retail WoW could be made more appealing to the classic audience. When asked about what classic players do like about Retail WoW, the answers were mostly about the transmog system and some quality of life features. But these two things were also often on the list of things that people didn't like about Retail WoW, so I think the classic community is somewhat divided on whether these things are a good or a bad thing. Okay, then moving on to the last question of what would need to change in retail in order to make classic players consider playing it. And the vast majority of the people I asked answered that no amount of changes will make them want to play retail. Many classic players seem to feel that the Retail WoW is simply too far removed from what the game used to be, and unless the whole game is remade, they simply have no interest in playing it. And for this reason, I didn't try to think of how the issues classic players have with retail could be addressed. Many people consider classic and Retail WoW to be two very different games that are to be enjoyed for different reasons and in different ways, and I completely agree with this myself. I enjoy the fast-paced, difficult retail endgame and the collection of transmogs and mounts, but I also enjoy the chill, classical MMORPG leveling and gearing experience that classic WoW has to offer. I would like to know how people feel about these issues, so go to the comment section and tell me if you feel like something is missing from these topics and whether you agree or disagree with them.
What is missing from these topics are actually like the adorable and beautiful classic WoW players that do not like give retail modern WoW a chance. So I get to fucking play with them and not the fucking like people that I'm used to. I found some, but like we're not enough. Like we're not enough. People are like this is what's missing from like classic from retail WoW. The classic WoW players. So yeah, this was I asked 400 classic WoW players why they don't like retail. It was like a great video. Subscribe to Shield. I really like that was a really like good like thinking experiment, and I think that like overall it made it touched they touched a lot of points that are true to the game, and I'll just add to that. Like people do not understand that like the average player is not a fucking like 15-year-old aimbot that fucking plays Valorant on the highest ranks, or League of Legends fucking like faker that fucking understands the game in ways that you never will. They're just people that goes to school or goes to work and goes to take some time to have fun after that, after the chores, and then go back to their lives. And this is what people tend to forget. And I say it like many times, but like over like it doesn't matter because like over the videos it doesn't like it doesn't connect. But like basically like it's just like what people tend to forget, and within this YouTube bubble, Twitch bubble, and gaming bubble, like people tend to forget who the fuck they are and who the fuck they think they are and who the fuck they are in reality. As if everyone think they are like a faker or like a who the fuck is a legend or a fucking what the fuck is a good player except faker? I don't remember. I can tell you no tale, but like well like for like some obscure Dota player, but like everything thinks that like they're faker when like everyone is basically just a random dude, and because that like people just need to take themselves like less seriously. My too fucking awesome like modern player. Yes, but that's because I had to fucking do my mythics, and I have 3 left for this week, and I know that like the fucking nightmare is not over yet. So yeah. Anyway, so that's it for the reaction. I'll see you later. I'll actually see you later. When it comes to like so, yeah. I'll see you later, and as always, be toxic. Bye.